I am in a sacred fourfold word, the blasphemy against all gods of men. Curse them, curse them, curse them. With my hawk's head, I peck at the eyes of Jesus as he hangs upon the cross. I flap my wings in the face of Muhammad and blind him. With my claws, I tear out the flesh of the Indian and the Buddhist Mongol and Din. Blastium peda, spit on your crapulous creeds. Let Mary and Violet be torn upon wheels. For her sake, let all chaste women be utterly despised among you. Also for beauty's sake and love's, despise also all cowards, professional soldiers who dare not fight but play. All fools despise. But the keen and the proud, the royal and the lofty, ye are brothers, as brothers fight ye. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. There is an end of the world, the God enthroned in Ra's seat, lightening the girders of the soul. Prince, to me come ye through tribulation of ordeal, which is bliss. The fool readeth this book of the Lord, its comment he understandeth it not. Let him come through the first ordeal, and it will be to him as silver, through the second gold, through the third stones of precious water, through the fourth ultimate sparks of the instant fire. Yet to all it shall seem beautiful. Its enemies who say not so are mere liars. There is success. I am alone in silence and of spring. Shh. My nemesis shrouds the night blue sky. Hail, ye twin waters. The time is nigh at hand. I am the rule of one, the power, the one with the force of confiance.
That's it. I'm not gonna follow you.
He said he don't like Puerto Ricans. He said he don't like Puerto Ricans.
We don't like him there. Hairy ass.
And Gigi, and he's all he got no teeth in his mouth neither. He got no teeth.
Brooklyn, to be fair, neither does she, so that's not a good one.
Yeah, both toothless. Damn.
This is all the person who goes.
My point to this is, there are times in America, Mayor Ginsburg said in her concurrence that she believed the legislature needed to make the law. So the legislature, Congress, needed to put that law in place. They knew so in the 70s, and they ignored it because it was easier to let it be a Supreme Court precedent that could possibly be the foundation of American legal system. A good example of this is what's called Obergefell. 13, Obergefell made same-sex marriage legal. As a consequence of making same-sex marriage legal, the Congress under the Joe Biden administration in 2023 passed the Marriage and Equality Act, which enshrines in federal law the right for gay, lesbian, and transgender couples to live together under American law and be treated the same. The reason I'm juxtaposing these things is to note that one, the Congress felt was so important they put into federal law. The other, they ignored and let what amounts to a hope and a point is that there were two justices in particular that talked to several members of the Senate and said that they were going to be no's on Dobbs, which was the case. And they ended up being yeses on the case.
And by the way, Marshall, very quickly, Dobbs, as you well know, came from Mississippi. It was a Mississippi case, not a Texas state. But continue.
Yeah, so Dobbs then doesn't make it illegal. They throw it back to the states. My state, and this is why I don't like the guy's attorney general very much, put in an incredibly restrictive abortion bill. Had an exception for rape, incest, life of the mother.
There was this woman who went before the court, the process laid out in the bill, and our Attorney General had written the code for the legislature. And he then sued on the exception that he wrote into code. So he's kind of POS. So like that guy I would call pretty bad. But not all do it. Now they all invoke Christianity, but that's a facet of being Texas rather than anything. So they may invoke Protestant Christianity in the East and West time. I think the Texas textbook or the Texas Education Agency will probably give teachers enough room to teach alternate text, which is, if you're going to go over one literary thing for religious texts, it's incredibly valuable, not because you're trying to be equal, but because it's valuable to read other stuff into the people's way of thinking. But I agree with Jason. This is not what y'all think it is, because they have been reading the Old Testament in Texas high schools since before the 1990s. It never stopped. It was just always in English and always the Old Testament. The only difference is it's mandated in law.
The Bible and teaching history of Christianity. And what I've heard is like,
I'm also talking about English. English too. English is a literature course. You read literature from when I took literature, we read, for example, Gilgamesh. Right? We read the story of Noah because Gilgamesh is the story of a flood. And historically, all the flood stories in the Fertile Crescent kind of go together. So they had been doing this for a very long time. I may depart from Jason here, but I don't think you should mandate reading particular religious texts ever. I think it's a bad idea. I think they should suggest you could do these three and make it a rule that if you choose one, you got to do most. So everybody knows what they believe, because as you said, we're in a different place. But again, Texas is also just very culturally Christian. It just is. It means it's going to get invoked in public affairs often. Most of the time at political events, they start her in with some sort of a reference of God.
Yeah.
Now, while some of that makes me uncomfortable, because I don't like the invoking of religion and politics, as I've said, you're not going to get away from it. So would you rather the kids learn about this stuff from the crazy political people, or would you rather them learn about it in a literary class where they have to compare it to the Epic of Gilgamesh?
This is recent, right? The teaching of this text in the school is recent.
I'm 35. I went to school 2000 and
yes, but it was not in the curriculum back then, Marshall.
No, it was.
It was? Well,
it wasn't in the curriculum.
If it was back then, right, there was a time where it wasn't, and then it was added again.
No, public school. No, it was mandated to read in freshman English. You had to read Exodus, the story of Noah, and you had to read the story of Moses.
Marshall, maybe your school did that, but it was not mandated.
I was under the impression that it was.
Okay, so you're confusing things here. The whole point of this is that there are now rules at the state.
Yeah, recent rules at the state level.
Right.
So, again, the point is that it's not the same to talk about and say, and nobody's arguing that it shouldn't be taught, right? But saying that you're teaching Christian history, from the that's what you would try to learn from the Bible. You will try to learn moral statements, like how to behave morally and what is good and what is bad and what God wants from you, etc. Right? From the literature point of view or from artistic point of view, there's some value on that, right? But again, my point to that is that just to avoid the impropriety or the impression of impropriety by teaching from the Bible, you could pick other books, and it doesn't follow that you're going to be ignorant or you're going to lose something, right? There's a lot of religions there's religions in other states, for example, the Book of the Mormon in Utah, which is probably much more relevant to Utah than the Bible is, right? And they could argue that that's the book that they should learn from. And my argument will be also you don't need to learn from that book specifically, you can learn about history books. And if you're going to learn about history, certainly the Bible doesn't talk about Christian history, right? It doesn't tell you what happened in the 1500s when like Luther separated from the church and what the reasons and what were the consequences and where the states that are the countries that were founded, right? Coming to the history of America, right, and the founding fathers and all those things, they were deeply religious. They were not necessarily Christian. They were deists. And I mean, I guess there's a whole conversation and argumentation against this kind of like, were they Christian or not? Is there really a separation of church and state or not? Which I think most of the people here have agreed that secularism is the way to go, right? So if we pretend that that's what actually the founding fathers wanted, and there's evidence that they did want that, right? Like, I think you bring up Thomas Jefferson, but on top of like that specific letter, he was like writing drafts of the Constitution where he removed certain things that sounded more religious, and he tried to go to things that were more secular. I think one is like when he says that we believe that these truths are sacred and something
We believe these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Yeah, he replaced it for self-evident, right? It was sacred, and then he replaced it for self-evident because that made it sound more of a secularity, which was very intentional. So again, I mean, I'm not saying that, you shouldn't learn about history and why Christianity was like very relevant from the historic point of view. You're not going to learn that from the Bible. The Bible is not the place where you're going to learn all this stuff. It doesn't have anything to explain about all of the foundation of America on Christian values. None at all. The Bible doesn't. It's 2,000 years old. How could it? Okay, so that kind of stuff could be taught at schools. That will be a history lesson, and you can see it. You can see it from a literature point of view or from an artistic point of view. Yeah, sure. But again, why pick the Bible, add it to the curriculum, and say everyone needs to learn from this? Like, just pick Greek mythology. Pick like Aesop's fables, right? Or just pick so many good stuff. Mark Twain. Why don't you teach Mark Twain? Why don't we say Shakespeare? Right? Shakespeare's hard, but maybe, I don't know. Things that are, why don't we pick stuff like that we are think more easily? It's not divisive. People are not going to argue about that. They're going to be, I mean, they're going to argue probably, but not passionately about like, they're really going through favoritism of what religion or another.
So I don't think you can talk about the history of, well, you're saying it could be part of history to learn about religion, but you're saying you would study the history of religion, and at no point would you read original religious texts. At no point. I mean, does that even seem like a good idea?
I don't think it would separate out, because if it says that would be really
No, please.
No,
It doesn't seem like a good idea. And they only have 3 texts in the curriculum. Yeah, it makes sense that you would read some texts from Christianity, from the Christian Bible, as part of learning about religion. Yes, it makes sense that you would do that. And when you're trying to understand the West, Christianity in particular is especially important.
What does the Prodigal's Son story teaches you about Christian history in the West?
It's just one story from the book, okay? I mean, they're not going to be able to cover all of them. But
no, I understand, but you claim that teaches you about...
No, I'm not claiming that. I'm saying you would have to read some passages from the real Bible, or it's plausible that you would read, it's reasonable that you would read plausible passages from the real Bible as part of learning about the history of Christianity. That's just totally reasonable. Now, if they have a lot of passages, okay, then maybe you have some doubts. Now, you have some reservations about the particular passages. Maybe you think other passages would be better, but that's not what is at dispute here. The question is, do they...
That's not true. I don't have research.
Well, you're saying, well, the prodigal son, what does that have to do?
Well,
the thing is, I don't know. I'm not Christian, okay? I'm not Jewish. I'm Buddhist. I don't know what's in these texts. Okay.
You don't know what is the project.
I know. Yeah, that's what I just said. I don't know. Okay. So, and
I know you argued that to understand the West, you need to
made
an assumption, Carlos.
And why would I say that? Because I'm learning about the history of the West, and I don't know anything about Christianity. Okay. And so I start reading these texts where people talk about various things about God and messages from the Bible, and I don't know those things. Okay. Because I'm Buddhist, all right? I've been Buddhist for like 25 years. So I know about Buddhism, okay? And I started learning about Judaism and all of these kinds of things in order to learn some of these things. So, but not because I believe in them. So all I'm getting at here, Carlos, is even if we just accept the premise you offer that you should study it as history, okay, then you would read some original texts. That makes sense. That to read some original texts as part of history. And 3 religious texts over 12 years is not too many. Okay, 3 passages. You're not reading the whole thing.
To look and learn about like moral wants us to do and all of those things. And there is no, you cannot say that that's not how it's getting taught at schools, right? Because they're reading from religious texts again.
Well, Carlos, they're not supposed to take it in that context. They're supposed to, as far as I understand. However, I think it opens the doorway for that to happen. What they're imposing to do is teach it as an English lit course, like just as a story, i.e., Hamilton, telltale, poetry, stuff like that, Shakespeare, right? But not to be taught as a life lesson on how to behave and how to conduct yourselves and how to gain your morals. However, I do think that it's going to turn into that, and that's where it needs to be stopped. Hopefully it doesn't happen.
So, like I said, we teach in Texas, and like I was in an AP course, so that's probably why they taught it this way. But if you're telling the story of the flood in history, if you don't include the Bible, you're not being honest. It's just that easy.
Why thought that is history? Wait.
That's not history, Marshall. That's
No,
myth.
the story of the flood is a historical account which is compared to Gilgamesh, the Egyptian flood story, the Kushite flood story. It's given flood stories all around the Mediterranean basin and has been for decades.
Yeah, so if you're
point of it.
If you're studying these kinds of myths, yes, you must include the Bible as well.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The English specifically does.
You're right. So maybe it's English, but I mean it's not history. I think that's what confused people.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying history informs the English, right? You get
what I mean is, like when you say you're studying in history, I mean the flood is a myth.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's been saying you're right. That makes a lot more sense.
But it's a myth, okay?
Yeah.
And yes, when you're studying flood stories as part of like foundational stories, of which there are many, then of course you should mention the Bible. Should you read the Bible as part of that? Well, it's up in the air. Maybe you can read the Gilgamesh one. Maybe you can read the other one. But if over the course of 12 years of studying history and literature, and all the time, during that time, you're going to mention myths from the Bible, stories from the Bible, should you read 1 or 2 of them, maybe 3 or 4, as part of becoming a literate person? Sure, I think that's totally reasonable. Many other things, you're going to read many other things. You're going to read that stuff from the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah,
you read Anglo-Saxon. You read Anglo-Saxon religion, okay? You read myths from the Greeks, right? And it should be mixed in there. I think that's totally reasonable to mix it in there. Maybe will turn out like JCC is saying. Maybe a broad liberal education, some readings from the Bible make a lot of sense, you know.
I just would say that I didn't get like extensive education on religions after college. I took elective courses. There's no like required reading about religion or any different kind of religion until I got. Actually, I don't think there was any required reading at all. I'm in California, by the way. The other thing too is like, I mean, there's tons of private schools that by tons I mean there are a lot of private schools where parents can send their children to get a religious education or just like a Christian history kind of education. You know, there's lots of places for parents to do that. Why does it need to be also taught in the public schools? I don't understand.
I mean, in my school, we did study myths. We didn't study comparative religion, but we did study myths. We did read Beowulf, for example. We did learn about Virgil, the Aeneid. We learned about Homer and the Odyssey. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in your school they didn't do that, but in our school they did. They thought it was part of preparing us to appreciate other literature that comes later. For example, if you want to appreciate Shakespeare, you know, knowing something about the Romans and their beliefs, knowing something about Christianity, all contribute to that, and that's part of their plan, part of their program. So, I'm not saying you have to do it, but there's no reason you don't have to do it. You know, there's no reason it's a crime or that it undermines the fabric of the country.
Just the First Amendment of the Constitution.
I think you got to make that argument because merely mentioning Christianity in the context of many other religious things, or reading Christian texts in the context of many other religious texts, is not recognizing an establishment of religion. You know.
Well, isn't the number of days limited to pick up in public schools? And so are they going to get into the Sikhism? Are they going to get into evangelical baptism? You know, Southern Baptists? Are they going to get into Calvinism? I mean, there's so much there that what you omit is almost an establishment of what you're covering.
Well, arguably, what you omit is a violation of the Constitution.
But so you bring up Church of Scientology? Religion goes down rabbit holes because since the Constitution, we've spawned here in America another dozen religions.
Okay, and I may be wrong, but it sounds like what you're arguing is what is and what is not a legitimate religion. What I'm stating is if you talk about one religion in public, you have to talk about all of them, otherwise it's a constitutional violation.
Sure. So again, it's a rabbit hole of it's not going to happen. They're not going to pick up enough subtleties to talk about 3 flavors of Judaism, Christianity, 2 or 6 of Islam.
Yes.
Buddhism, like
yes.
Okay, so
we should teach this stuff as comparative religions. Its importance is an important part of people's lives, and comparative religions is the best place, best type of class where you learn about religions, about the beliefs and traditions, and
not in culture, anthropology.
They teach it in parochial schools, and it had a habit, like the Jesuits do it. The Jesuits teach comparative religion in high school, and the rationale is that being able to see what everybody believes makes you a more critical thinker.
It's just like philosophy. The more frameworks your brain's familiar with, the more creativity you're capable of.
There's already, I just Googled some Supreme Court cases. The first one that popped up was Abington School District versus Schnepp, 1963. Let's see, I'm going to read okay. Primary holding, public schools cannot sponsor Bible readings and recitations of the Lord's Prayer under the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. Okay, because of the prohibition of the First Amendment against the enactment by Congress of any law respecting an establishment of religion, which is made applicable to the states by the 14th Amendment, no state law or school board may require that passages from the Bible be read or that the Lord's Prayer be recited in the public schools of a state beginning of each school day, even if individual students may be excused from attending or participating in such exercises upon written request from their parents. I'll put this link in the chat for you guys. There's a bunch of other court cases like this. The precedent is that this is unconstitutional.
Then somebody should sue. One of the things I learned about the federal system, which I think is most consequential, is a lot of the times when things happen, you don't have the money or wherewithal to find somebody who has the standing to go before a court and adjudicate the matter to begin with. So I agree with you. Steve,
Look, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was just going to ask if you could post a letter to the Danbury Baptist today.
I'm sorry, post what?
I sent you the letter to the Danbury Baptist from Thomas Jefferson. It's aware of the idea in America of secularism.
You want me to post it in the group chat?
The group chat at the top, whichever's easiest for you.
You got it, buddy. No problem.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, what you're posting here, Elliot, just has nothing to do with whether you can assign the reading in a course. It's talking about an assembly that is at the beginning of the school day, right?
That's one of the things it says. It says that, plus it says, let me scroll back up. The first sentence says public schools cannot sponsor Bible readings. Okay, that's the first sentence. Cannot sponsor Bible readings. And if they're readings about like David and Goliath,
that's a summary. That's a summary provided by Josiah. Yes, but I'm saying if you look at the holding is when they say readings, they're talking about when you have a Bible reading in the sense that a church has it. Like we all get together and we read this thing, right? That's not the same thing as an assigned reading in a course, which then the teacher can indeed assign a religious text of any kind, including the Bible. So this is talking about ritualistic religious activity.
If you're talking about that too, it's not talking about just that. Okay, a teacher whose salary is paid for by the American taxpayer, say Texas residents, Texas citizens, public school is sponsoring that Bible reading. That's what they want to do.
That's not a Bible reading in the sense that is meant here. Okay, because you're just reading the summary and you're using the word reading in an equivocal sense. Here they're talking about a Bible reading in the sense of a recitation or organized religious study. In particular, they say, no state law or school board may require that the passages from the Bible be read or that the Lord's Prayer be recited in the public schools of the state at the beginning of each school day. Okay? This is talking about an assembly and things like that. It's not talking about a required reading list, which, for the purpose of study, where, yes, any text may be assigned. I think that it's not manifestly like it's chapter or years.
I just think there's plenty of religious institutions as I drive in Texas where people can elect to learn whatever they want. Just like their parents can bring them to if they want them to. K through 12 mandatory doesn't sound like an elected.
No, it's mandatory. Yes, it's mandatory.
Even though here in California, which we're more liberal, left-leaning, I can't drive like even like 2 blocks without passing a church. Okay, they're just everywhere. There are tons of private schools over here that are, Catholic private schools, usually mostly Catholic private schools, but there are Protestant schools over here as well, where, third graders, I don't know if you read from the AP that I posted earlier, Jason, but in the AP article about this, just says that, by the fourth grade, children will be learning about Jesus. Okay, and Christians think that Jesus is God. All right, so they're learning about God, Jason. That's
Where is that, please? Where is that, please?
Let me get it. I'll post it. Let me get it.
I mean, like city or state is what I'm asking. Okay.
This is a state law in Texas. It's a state
law in Texas. Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
It's like a ruling by Texas School Board. I think
okay, yeah, it's a state regulation. Regulations are also good.
Well, if it's a state law, then all the school boards would have to follow it. If it's optional, then it would be each individual school district.
No, it's required.
It's a state law, is what you're telling me. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think one of the confounding things here is like reading texts is in high schools. People read the Odyssey, or they read bits and pieces. Shakespeare, Carlos, please. So just the fact that a text is religious in nature, or that a text references God or religious content, is not enough to mean it shouldn't be in school.
You think the Odyssey and Iliad are religious texts?
Yes, they are religious texts. They are about the dawn of the Greeks, for example.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the Aeneid is how Romans became Roman, okay? It is the founding myth of Rome. No, I don't know, that's their religion.
Well, I mean, I agree that they were religious because there was a group of people who believed that there was a god or gods, right, based on those texts. But there is no people that live and believe that anymore, at least not significant group of people. So there is a different distinction to make between those books and the Bible, right? The Bible is more in line with like what the Quran will be, or the Book of the Mormon. That those are religions that pretty much people will take scripture and they believe on that as the word of God. Nobody believes that Zeus is God anymore.
But I'm not sure what that matters here, because does that mean it's not a religious text because you can't find anybody? You can't find it. You certainly can't say for certain that no one believes it. Okay, that's actually really. Please stop interrupting me, Carlos. I'm trying to package everything up here. Okay, don't correct me. Correct me when I'm done. Okay, that will be much more order. All right. You certainly can't say with certainty that no one believes it. But okay, it's hard to find a person who believes it. That's probably true. But does that make it not a religious text from a legal or public policy standpoint? I think that's pretty vague or tenuous. I think, for example, if the government insisted on rituals of Greek religion and of ancient Greek religion, that would be seen as violating the First Amendment and establishing a religion, even if the religion is a dead religion. Okay. It just doesn't matter from a public policy standpoint. I don't see why you emphasize that point so much. So what is important to you about that?
Again, like, I'm not saying that you cannot find someone who will believe that Zeus is a god, right, or Thor exists or whatever. Like, there's not a large group of people who believe on that, and there is certainly a distinction, right, between what is mythology and what is like a religious text. And I'm sure courts will make a distinction between someone who's teaching the Iliad and teaching the Bible. pretty sure that all people here will understand the difference between what is like the Bible means for people who believe in or historic point of view, right? If stuff like this, handstand and whatnot, if you replace those stories with readings from the Quran about the Prophet Muhammad, let's say, and Texas School Board, forced Christian children, third graders, to read about the Prophet Muhammad. I mean, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. That would just be completely ridiculous to everybody. That would never happen. Okay, but they're not even the Texas School Boards. They're just plucking their own favorite religion out and saying that the kids need to learn about this stuff. If they were at least if they were at least going to be consistent, they would also mandate that the kids learn about all the different religions. They're not even doing that. They're just plucking just Jesus out.
Is that what's happening? They're requiring these texts to be read in mandatory classes?
Yeah, they're over 12 years.
They haven't finalized it. They put it on the reading list.
Yeah, over 12 years, the students will have to read 3 passages from the Bible, 2 from the Old Testament and 1 from the New Testament.
Yeah,
the sermon on the
It's just a wedge. It's gonna grow, Jason. I've lived in Texas 30 years, bro.
It's just going to take one parent to complain, and that's going to get knocked down. You can have it in school, right? But you can't make it mandatory for all students to read that stuff.
So Adam, the title of the room is secularism the best way to reach a moral society? What is your opinion about that?
The United States is and always has been too heterogeneous in order for anything but secularism to work. This is really milquetoast stuff where you just have reading of random passages of the Bible. These are not actually coherent. They don't actually give you what actual practicing Christians do in various denominations. You need a lot more than just the words in the book, right? There's a whole practice that goes along with that. And whenever the theocrats have tried to kind of implement those things, there becomes a huge amount of infighting because different denominations don't agree with each other on how the Bible should be interpreted, right? So they end up landing on the blandest, most unrelated to actual practice sorts of reading that you can have because it's all you could possibly have. But this isn't really functional, right? Again, all you'll need is one Muslim kid in Texas to be I've been forced to read this, one Jewish kid to be I've been forced to read this thing and I don't want to read it. And that's the end of this plan, because you can't force people to read the text. Again, you can have them in public school, but I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court is going to be no, this cannot be forced.
And let me give very quick full disclosure. Firstly, Adam, this morning, great take. Probably the best take of the morning in my show. But when I came in this room about 20 minutes ago, the original title was, quote, "Secularism is the best way to reach a moral society." And I didn't tell Carlos, who probably opened it, but I changed it to the current title. Hope you don't mind, Carlos. Karen?
Once again. I'll read this section from the Associated Press's article about this topic. Let's see, okay. Picture book stories for elementary students, including David and Goliath and Daniel in the Lion's Den, are on the required reading list. By the 4th grade, students will encounter passages about Jesus in the New Testament. Right? In middle school, students will be expected to read passages about Jesus, including his most famous sermon, and another where he instructs people to cast aside earthly anxiety and seek the kingdom of God. Okay, that's religion.
Oh yeah, that's religion. Is
that from the PDPs I sent you, or is that from
clearly religion? Yeah, they're gonna get that knocked down. The parts they want you to read is just straight. The Jesus part, that's just straight prophecy.
Yeah, that's
gonna get knocked down.
That'll get called the First Amendment establishment issue. And the establishment, so on free speech and religious matters,
they almost always side with the party who is being infringed upon.
You know, guys, I don't really see it as any different from the Greek myths. And it's just as fine to read the Christian myths as the Greek myths in school. If people take it further than that, I don't know, they begin religious instruction. Okay, that's bad, that's wrong. You know, just the same as if they began to, I don't know, teach people the Greek religion or something.
I don't know, I like, do learn about it in English, but as a historical myth-making matter, if I were covering the Fertile Crescent, I would include that. You would have to include it.
Yeah,
Am I going to just give me a second. Would I include his recollection to come lose all your things, follow me, and have the kingdom of Christ? No. I agree that's proselytizing. But Noah, the flood myth, goes along with the other flood myths that you teach at that point in time.
Yeah, that's all.
The only place to get the text for those things is the Old Testament. You can't get it. I'm not going to give kids some secondary source bullshit. They need to be able to read it with their own minds. And they'll have to read Gilgamesh, and they'll have to read the Assyrians, and they'll have to read the Persians, and they'll have to read the Egyptians. But they'll have to read the primary text because you can't learn it any other way.
Interesting that actually the primary text is actually in Hebrew. It's in the Hebrew Bible. And it's odd that...
I realize that, but we translate all sorts of things, don't we?
Yeah.
All of Greek and Roman history are taught in English at American universities.
The Tanakh translation.
That's not my point. My point is they're all taught in English. Unless you take an advanced doctoral or master's degree course, you're not going to learn how to read archaic Greek.
People with PhDs in biblical theology.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not most people. Most people get taught in English.
Well, then why don't we just teach the documentary hypothesis if we're going to teach the myth? Why don't we teach the history?
Because the history is what happened.
We are going to teach the history, David, but as part of teaching the history of things,
It wasn't written by
sometimes
up until 150, 200 years, and they could suss out the bullshit. They lived under a fucking monarchy that had divine right of kings. This is ahistorical to act like comparative religion shouldn't teach how people who go to seminary know the Bible was historically constructed. They don't learn some other way.
No one's saying that. No, stop, Marshall. No one's saying that. No one is saying that, David. But as part of studying these things, you do read the original text, and the original texts are religious myths. Okay? And if sometimes the original...
That's how religious schools teach it. You can learn about it without reading the whole thing. You can learn that it's not true.
No, that's not.
Marshall, stop.
No, I'm sorry.
Control yourself, Marshall.
That is not how you teach history ever.
No, look.
Read the documents.
In a seminary, they know the construction, and they don't come out and talk to their parish. They don't share this shit, but it's true. So it's the secrets of the Bible that they should teach if they want to be secular.
It's not about that. It's about the flood myth. There are 7 different flood myths, and you have to teach them all. If you don't use it, you do not have to teach them all. You're fundamentally not
Again, Marshall, you need to...
all the shit. Some of the
Stop being so angry, Marshall.
One time at a time. Stop, Jason. Don't attack people.
Not an elected. What class do you take that in? K through 12 in public schools. It's not an elected. That's not. You don't learn. That would be for maybe an AP class, maybe a culture anthropology. But those are elected. You don't learn that shit in the primary. Take the fucking STAR test in your freshman year, and now you can finish high school. Texas testing, I can speak firsthand. My children are in these schools.
Tell me the class that's like health, where you're going to get into all of the flood myths. That's a waste of time. You don't have time to teach that.
No, in world history, they run over every flood myth in the Fertile Crescent. It's been in world history textbooks in Texas since the 1980s. What are you talking about, David? They've done this for years. Like, what's the difference? Like, okay, you don't like the Old Testament text. If you're willing to have the text read, if you're willing to have other texts read that apply to the gods of those people for religious blessing and forbearance in their journey. You have to teach them all, or else you're not teaching the truth. It's just that simple.
I'm fine with it. Tell me the grade, and I'll go look at the keys for the world history. It talks about these.
David, I say it we're taking it that way. I say people would take it that way.
He said it's in 8th grade. He said it's in 8th grade.
Great key. I'll go look it up.
Yeah. So you're learning. You keep on saying, Marshall, that the floods are history, which I thought we agreed that they were myths, but now you're saying
no.
So you think it's history? You think it actually happened?
Depending on where you look at, from 20,000 years ago, there was a myth that had happened in the Black Sea. There was one that had happened in the Mediterranean. And there are sketchy amounts of archaeology that would give you some sort of historical direction. They're not record. Right?
Exactly. You think that they actually happened.
Which means I teach the text, the anthropology, and the archaeology all in one, because that's the only way to get an honest reading of it.
I don't think this happens in public middle school.
I didn't say it happened. Y'all are reframing what I said. I didn't say it does happen. I said would happen.
What I'm saying
happen this way because that's the most accurate way to teach the subject.
But that's like a college.
Only useful if you teach it accurately.
But Marshall, that's like a college way of teaching history in like middle school. You don't read primary texts as a kid.
Yes, you did. I read paragraphs in all my history books.
They're
literally all my history books.
It's textbooks. It's textbook-based education.
I mean, that is true.
Okay, maybe I went to a super special school, but I got printed out stuff all the time in high school, and I was in the CB classes. I'm not in the AB classes. So for the very basic Texas education, that's what they did. And now people are complaining about this. If that's Texas education, then we're doing a damn good job.
Well, they taught you that floods are a matter of the fact, like if they actually happen, that shows the failure of the system.
Floods teach they're part of the historical record.
How come it's a myth? Marshall, it's a myth.
It's a myth.
Marshall,
it's written down and you combine it with anthropology and archaeology.
Stop repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself in a confusing way. You keep saying it's part of the historical record. Stop fucking saying that. Okay, you mean something by that is not clear.
Because it was written at the time.
Stop. You need to stop doubling down. All right? You keep saying that, and that is confusing people. And you just need to take a breather here, okay, and start over.
Let me see if I can add something very short that may help. It might make things worse. The way I look at it, which again could be wrong, is that it's a historical fact that there was a flood. The myth is whether or not the flood was worldwide, but that's just the way I look at it.
What flood? Do we know the year it happened? I agree that Marshall may have gone in a jiu-jitsu form to talk about that people knew those stories and told those stories. That is history. Fine. But I think at Gibraltar, that flood, humans weren't around.
Yeah, and as
the
far
Ice Age, I think like the Columbia Valley in Washington, maybe Native Americans have myths around a flood, and I would believe that. But having a flood myth being universal means all of them can make shit up, or that shit travels around. Like Zoroastrianism influences Judaism, and in captivity influenced the composition of the Old Testament. That these things are evolving themselves over time. That's historical. I'm fine with studying that, but I don't think that happens as a classroom universally in 8th grade. They don't print text anymore. I would love to.
Learning about the flood myth doesn't just inform you about the flood myth. It informs you about the next 1,000 years of the society and the Fertile Crescent and the way they arrange themselves. Not simply. It informs you on everything. It's a base for the knowledge to look at the rest of the archaeology and the rest of the written history and make your own decision. I don't think Texas schools, or any school for that matter, should teach the flood saying one is more righteous than the other. But you don't teach it because it's the flood. You teach it because it's a building block for the way societies coped with that danger for 1,000 years afterward. And it influenced everything. You can't find one thing in ancient history that wasn't influenced by. Not one. The way the Egyptians took care of their fields was really big about the sea people in the flood. The way the Greeks did it was big about the flood. The way the people in the Baltic Sea did it was big about the flood.
The Egyptians,
like you don't learn it. Well, you don't. Yes. But you don't learn it because
it was dependent on flood myths.
Because the Egyptians were.
It's the fucking Nile.
David, Marshall,
hold on, there's a separate story in which it's reported by at least 5 or 6 kingdoms in which there was a great flood in Egypt around the same time as the other great flood stories. And again, you don't teach them because they're them. You teach them because they're a base. And you have to build your house on a firm foundation, or else nothing else you learn will make any sense. But it's okay. People can disagree with me. But that's really why you want to do it. Because you want the historical base to properly understand in context the history of the region.
Marshall, you're not really speaking to David's. You're not speaking to David's critique.
I never learned the criticality of all of the Levant on Noah's fucking ark. I didn't know it was all.
I said in many stories, not one. Come on, man.
Well, then stop. Just drop the flood. Because we're specifically talking about.
Marshall, you are speaking in an unclear way. Okay, what you mean, Marshall, is that there are these flood myths are important. They are relevant. Okay, when you say the flood, Marshall, what it communicates to people is specifically the story from the Bible, which is not what you mean. All right.
No, that's not what I mean.
And so you need to clean up. You need to clean up what you are saying, and also you need to say a lot fewer things all at once. All right.
Okay.
So on the one hand, I agree with Marshall. Yes, this family of myths is important in understanding the Middle East and the Fertile Crescent. On the other hand, I disagree with Marshall that you have to teach all of them in the sense that you give all of them detailed study or something, or you have kids read all of them. Honestly, if you read one, that's probably more than most people will ever do in their whole lives, and that's probably enough. But yeah, is it relevant historically? Yes. I'm not sure about the incredible emphasis or weight given here to it. And I don't think that there's a disputable point here at the point where we say, well, there are flood myths, and you probably should know about them to understand the Fertile Crescent and the Middle East. I mean, what is there to disagree with there?
Nobody's disputing what Marco is saying. Like, people, I just like this is a part of history. Who believe in this stuff. They organize their lives around religion, different religious ways of. But it's also in the first grade, it's going to go in second grade. It's like this is material for like maybe 12th graders in college. That's where it would be.
Or indoctrination if you do it in 3rd grade.
In 3rd grade, I think you do in 10th grade, but that's maybe football.
You can learn about, for example, I learned like the Nile River in Egypt it was difficult to
to do agriculture there because of the floods, right? And I forgot what they do and the techniques they do, but you don't need to read these myths about it to learn about that. And all the myths, right, are not history. If you read one of those stories, right, if you read the one in the Bible specifically, it says that there was a genocide. Essentially, all the world died except for a family of Noah, right? So that's inaccurate. That's not a historical factor.
It's called literature, right? There's a word for it. It's called literature. And when you study literature, you're ready to situate it in contemporary with the author, with what they might have had on their mind at the time, what was going on around them, maybe allegory, how to situate. I mean, Bible study knows how to do this, but it's called literature. It's just a book. It's a library of a bunch of books written over time. Why is that so hard?
What you learn about this is not like, oh, this is like a historical thing that helps us to know how to, behave in society and things. You learn how to write good stories that capture the reader, so something that is compelling. What is going to capture a reader to keep reading your story and be entertained? That's what you read. And the fact that I hear Marshall saying so much, like, oh, this is history, and like Texas has been doing a great example because they taught me this, and you thinking that it's actually something that happened, tells me the opposite, right? It tells me that the school system has failed.
I didn't say it happened.
Okay, so you don't think it happened?
No, sir. What I think is that there are 7 separate stories of 7 different peoples who inhabit maybe a 50,000 square mile area, are all saying something rather similar. I don't know why they're saying something rather similar, but they are. So as a consequence, you would want to explore that. Plagiarism. And exploring that, you would come across the written texts, which you would then have to compare to the authors and their histories. You would then have to compare to the region around it. You would then have to compare to the archaeology that talks about all of that. Again, the same thing I've been saying for 10 minutes. I didn't say you were to teach it religiously. I said if you teach it, you should give an example of every one, because it gives people the understanding of what each different people said and how it played telephone in the Middle East when it was recorded. And that kind of facet of mass human history is both interesting and important. So.
Yeah, it just doesn't necessarily need to be taught in school, in grade school. You could say later, like why study the flood specifically? Because there's so many things you could study, the Aegean or whatever, that, our society evolved from. And that's kind of a unique thing about Christianity and the Old Testament. They have that relationship, whereas like the Tao Te Ching or the Sikh texts don't,
I kind of mellowed in my old age on these topics. I would have probably been more against it when I was younger. But now I'm just like, it's fine if my kid reads it. I mean, it's not like my kid's going to end up being a Bible-thumping Christian, right? Because, like, she knows that I don't value that, and we don't go to church. And reading a couple paragraphs of the Bible is not going to turn her into an evangelical. It's just not, right? It's not effective in any way, right? These people are sending their own kids to Bible study, and their kids are leaving their churches at very high rates. So I'm not really worried about my kid being indoctrinated by this sort of stuff. So, I mean, they're probably going to read it anyway. It's totally fine.
Well, it drives off quality teachers who know that it's really part of the censorship, and it's more a sign of the problems with the last 10 years of burnout of quality teachers in the public school. I believe they don't pay them for shit yet.
So, what indoctrination do you prefer your child to have if it's not biblical? What other form of indoctrination is he prefer?
What I prefer my
Scientific.
I want my kid to be indoctrinated into the ways of like was just stated, science, right? I'm a scientist by training. So is my wife. My father-in-law is a doctor. I want my kids to be focused on that.
Don't you want your kids to like have the freedom to choose what they want rather than?
No. In fact, I don't. In fact, I don't want that. No. In fact, what I want for my kids is I want my kids to be rich, right? And I want my kids to be educated in things that are
Rich in what way?
money. The only way that rich means rich. Rich means money. That's what rich means. I have my kids in an extremely elite prep school. I'm spending $120,000 a year in their education, and that's what I want for them. I don't want them to feel like they can go to school and major in underwater basket weaving because I don't support that. No, I do not. I do not support them going to school and getting a degree in philosophy or theology or any of that shit. No, we're doing tiger parent stuff over here. And if other people want to raise their kids to do this stuff, that's fine. But they don't have that sort of input on my life. I don't view them as my superiors, so I'm not looking for their approval. I don't want my kids to be like their kids. I don't want to be like them, right? I want them to focus on the things that are highly remunerative in this society, period.
And Adam, if I may, would business and finance be included in those categories?
After they get their scientific education, sure, but they should not be going to get an undergraduate business education. No.
Okay, so you're focusing first on science and then business and finance.
Science and math first.
Yes.
You can go to college, you can go to grad school, and then you can get an MBA.
You need numeracy before you pretend you know how to operate a business.
But what about, do you value, for example, theory and literature, art to be taught in schools?
Yeah, they should be taught in schools, but those are not jobs.
Well,
those are not jobs.
Well, that's
there's a
you still want your kids to learn it.
Yeah, that's about the. I don't want them to be under the assumption that being an artist is a real job. So in our society,
we value art. Art is a very strong component.
So then send your kids to be artists. Mine will not be doing that. Mine will not be doing that.
But I'm here to raise a slave. I'm here to raise a human being.
In our society, what we have left over, and I can say this because my kids are at the sorts of institutions where the cult of the humanities started, right, in elite Northeastern prep schools and Columbia University. We had a class of people who were already rich, who then went to establish a bunch of institutions, and they're great institutions, right, but they were independently wealthy. And then they were focused on being artists and all this other stuff, but the money was coming from trusts that they had. This is not how I want my kids to be raised. They need to go out and go hunt something, right? They got to go and make their own money. They're not going to be living off of me forever. And most artists, even very successful artists that we all know, end up dying with no money. And somebody else captures the value of their art. The financial value. This is the normal thing that happens with artists, right? Some other rich person gets all the value for the art that they've generated. So we don't really value art that much because the artists don't capture hardly any of the value in their lifetime.
Wait, what do you consider art? You mean just painting? Is that what you consider art? When I say art, I mean a little bit more.
Even books. What he's saying though is true of books. It's true of music recordings. It's true of so many things.
So
that the artist ends up poor.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want
a very small group of people who take drugs and want to paint.
No.
Not
take drugs.
Talking about his kid, not Jamie the girls behind the hill.
Yeah, I'm not talking about people who ended up being drug addicts, right? I'm talking about people who were practicing artists who had studios, who had shows, right? And most of them didn't become popular until after their death. And whoever owned their stuff after their death, they got all the money from it.
Well,
It wasn't them.
but their contribution to society.
Well, great. I want my kids to experience.
I love what Adam was saying. Yeah.
I'm just saying that, listen, imagine if the world was just like Adam, everyone was like Adam.
Well, you can sacrifice your line to be that way.
We'll all be
Sacrifice
poor.
your children.
Well, no, we will all be poor because every
You're
one of us
just
will be
stealing
rich.
his personal advice. I mean, come on.
I'm just saying that, thank God the world is not like
So
that.
then sacrifice your children and your life.
No, sacrifice it.
I think the world that it is like Adam, as somebody who loves history and would love nothing more than like wander around monuments and read firsthand texts, how do you think we get the fucking money for that shit? We go to rich people who do what Adam does. Hey man, we'd like to read these really old texts and maybe write a couple of books.
Oh, Marshall,
You think
stop
we
it,
chill out a couple
please.
$1 million? And that's usually how that happens.
When I was a child, I became a scientist by training. When I was a child, I wanted to be a paleontologist. That's what I've always wanted to be. When I travel for work, the British Natural History Museum is a travesty. It's fucking awful. They've turned it into the lowest common denominator now. It's terrible.
How are you able to enjoy that
No, but here's the thing. The reason why I never ended up going to school to pursue paleontology was because when I got to university, I realized paleontology has always been a rich man's game. It was always, from its very inception, the thing that people who were married into generational wealth did after they had money. It was never supposed to be a thing that you needed to do for work. And that's why it's so difficult for people who don't come from that money to participate in that field. So I never did it.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think we're entering age of abundance in the future?
What does that mean? Age of abundance.
Meaning that we no longer have to vie for.
No.
No? Okay.
Demonstrably not.
We already been there, right? Like compared to, let's say, the average person right now in the United States of America lives, if not better than a king, 200-300 years ago, right?
No.
So we've already started. Let me just finish. Let me land this plane. Average American has access to the toilet when there was only a king who had access to a toilet. Things like that show that we've been progressively entering the age of abundance. So for you, Adam, to think that you still have this mentality of a caveman, vying against others, and it's a bit, I don't know what to say.
I think toilets are a reduction.
So there's this weird thing that he's doing where he's talking about absolute increases in material well-being, and I'm talking about relative position.
Yeah, but I'm saying that you're
I'm clearly talking about relative position within your society, right? I want my kids in the society to exist to be at the top of the society. I don't give a fuck what it looked like 300 years ago, because my kids aren't living 300 years ago. I care what the kids who sit next to them in school have and being above them. That's what I want my kids to be above. I don't want my kids to be middle class, right? So I am doing everything in my power to make sure that they won't be middle class. That's what I'm saying, right? So bringing up what it was like when Henry VIII was on the throne is immaterial to what I'm doing in terms of raising my children. I don't care.
All I'm saying is that you're not going to raise them to be the kids of the future because they're going to suffer based on what you're saying. They're not going to thrive. Let me just finish, dickhead.
Sin, do you have children? Sin, do you have children?
Why are you to let you finish when you start saying stupid shit?
Does Sin have children?
Just allow me to finish.
Sin, do you have children?
Yes.
What are you doing with your children? What kind of school do they go
giving
to?
them all the support they need to be a proper human being. They choose what course. I don't deny them of religion. I don't push religion down their throat. But the Bible is available for them to study if they want to.
What is your background?
I find it very interesting to study the Bible, and I think it's a good story to share with them, but it doesn't mean that they have to study like they studied math.
What level of education do you have?
I have a college degree.
And where's your family from?
What is this, an interview about me?
No, this is actually quite important, right?
Where's my family? From East
Yes.
Africa.
Yeah, you should focus on getting your kids some money.
Oh no, I got the money. So all they need is
Oh, you have the money.
I have the money. Yeah. All they have to do is
I'm
have that
resting my case. You're on our list.
Look, I have the money for my family. Like they could go to school if they want to. If they don't want to go to school, it's up to them. I'm not putting pressure on my
Wait,
kids.
you already have family money?
No, I made my money.
Okay, well then I rest my case.
You don't rest your case. I'm not, like, that's not the center of my life. If I had less money, I still be who I am. I don't let money decide.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. No, for real.
I don't want to.
You're obsessed over, like, you're obsessed over being part of, like, the
I don't understand why my choice. I think you feel insecure about your choices.
No, I do.
That's why my choices grate you so much, because you feel that I am inherently discounting your choices by not choosing to raise my children the way that you chose to.
No, you don't raise them all, but I just feel that they're gonna have a lot of trauma in their life.
I don't think so.
At some point, and I think they probably most likely, and I hate to say this to you, Adam, but more likely than not, they probably would not have a relationship with you.
I don't think any of that is likely.
Well, let's just say that we keep it on record, the replay.
I don't think any of that is likely.
Allow me to take 1 minute from my personal experience. I raised 2 children. They're in their 30s right now. When I was raising my kids, I would say I'm sort of in between Sin and Adam. I stressed that I wanted them absolutely to get a college education, and I said that me and my ex-wife, we would pay for all of their needs, reasonable needs, to get a college education, undergrad degree. We didn't care what it was in, but the way I was raised when I was young, college education, any education is something that nobody can take away from you. So all we stressed was we wanted our kids to be happy, do whatever they wanted to do in their life, but get your college education now. Where are my kids right now? My son is a lawyer. God bless him. Pardon me, I'm an atheist. Living in San Diego. He's single, doing very successfully. My daughter has a master's degree in social services, and she's in Portland, married with my first grandchild. They are both happy. They are both independent. They are both living their lives and productive members of society. So I just wanted to throw that out there from my personal.
No, I agree with you, Steve. I think for me right now at this age, I believe college degree is like high school degree. Right? Just as we went back 6 years ago.
Well, if that's the case, then it's more important to get your education and a master's or a doctorate.
No, absolutely. Like I think in the 50s and the 40s or the 30s, 6th grade education was considered high school level education, right? That's basic education. In today's world, you need college education to thrive or even just to survive. So I agree. I think I think college education should be just like high school public, free for all whoever wants to attend it. I support that 100%.
And I agree with.
Yeah, we'll bring up
public education.
Yeah.
I got a different opinion though. I disagree with that. But I mean, that shouldn't be your only goal. Your goal also, in addition to that, should be to raise your children to learn how to think properly about things, how to think, not what to think. How to think is extremely important. Also, you should teach your kids to, when they grow to become adults, to be moral people. Okay, and in order to do that, you have to. And in order to do that, you have to teach them about philosophy and history. Those are like necessary conditions. To raise a moral couple, a moral kid to whatever. Not just like teaching them how to be rich. You shouldn't be moral people.
I mean,
I don't disagree on the history end, but I do think like people who are professionals at that, the money comes from like sovereign wealth funds. It comes from wealthy individuals who sponsor things like archaeological digs and research time. Like Robert Caro has written a set of books about LBJ, and they're wonderful. But Robert Caro made his money by writing. He and his wife Ina lived in two one-room apartments, one in New York in the Bronx and one in New York in Manhattan, I think. On a tiny little house somewhere in Texas when they did the OBJ biographies. But Adam is right. Like, look, I didn't finish college, but what I studied was history, and I use history in my field today, but I'm not a teacher or an archaeologist or somebody that gets paid to sit and read books and like write papers about them, which university professors do. You're a teacher, you're a university professor, you're an archaeologist, you're a book writer of some kind, and then like maybe you go into public service at some point. Some public servants have had history degrees, but like aside from that, the thing in the modern world that is going to get you ahead, and it's good that it can be taught as a young person, because I got old and I didn't want to study what I wasn't interested in. I didn't want to do the math, and as much as time as I spent doing history, I could have done math. I would have been decent at it. Right? I probably wouldn't have been like top of my class, but I could have figured it out. But instead of figuring it out, I devoted my resources other places, and I'm doing something that's not the major I chose in college. And if I get a job doing this, the money is going to come from the taxpayer, the wealthy donor, right? It's like history's a thing that history and art are things that the wealthy can afford. And they can afford to subsidize those. But digging up parts of Troy in Turkey doesn't pay for itself. There's no amount of searching the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, which buys you bread and some sort of meat in Egypt to eat. Right?
So, Marshall, do you think that they're just doing something that's wasteful? Do you think there's no value in digging up those pottery?
I find immense value in it, which is why I want, and out of my sense of love, the elitist that you do science, but like
government grants, okay?
No, a lot of university. What I mean specifically is people who like write books. That's private money, right? And they get paid for that.
There is no such thing as private money, but you know.
I mean, the money that you owe yourself and you dump into somebody else.
I don't think you profit, Marshall, honestly. Majority of the research done in America in the 80s, in the social sciences, comes from government grant money. It does not come from private donors. This is completely false.
Well, I agree with you.
Private donors, because
Marshall, here's the thing. So,
one at a time. If there's an archaeological dig in Troy, it is almost guaranteed to be coming from some government entity. Some government is sponsoring that dig. Now, I do agree with that.
I said no. That's what I said.
No, Marshall, you gotta remember, a lot of this money comes from government, keeps the door open. But let's say there's a special thing that they need to do, then they'll go for private funding. But what keeps those guys going? Their salary, their institution, it's all based on government funding.
You guys do know that you can go on these digs as a non-expert who has a real job, right? Like, you can go.
I have the hardest time doing.
You can volunteer. You can. They take people all the time to tapes for dinosaurs. Like, it's very common. Like, you can do it if you want.
Well, do they give you like food and shelter?
Yeah, it's like nominal stuff, right? You can do it. And I would encourage my kids to do it after they have an actual career, right? But this should not be viewed as a career, because almost no one gets to do it as a career. It's the same as thinking you're going to be a professional athlete or an actor. You are not. You are going to go into academia, you're going to spend a ton of time doing it, and you're not going to get a chair, because these departments are not growing, they're shrinking, right? And the people who have these chairs die in these chairs. So no, you should not think of this as something that you can reasonably accomplish. I'd be a fool to let, as somebody who's been in academia, I'd be a fool to let my kids think that this is a reasonable path for the future. Most of the people in those chairs didn't have to do things like postdocs because they're old, and people didn't do postdocs when those old people got in, the university system was expanding, and now most of the people who get these degrees, these terminal degrees, do not end up in academia because there are no jobs in academia. So no thank you.
I agree with Adam that there are no jobs in academia anymore, and the jobs you are gonna get are like some lecturer piston making $2,000 a month or something like that. But and I would agree with Adam that I think mainly you should only go into this career field if you have some money from your family where you're gonna be safe. But one problem is that the arts and humanities, even more so than it is today, become, heavily concentrated with the kids of the wealthy, right? And that is a problem in terms of what research is done, methodologies are deployed, how those methodologies are deployed, what is the scope of your focus. Class doesn't matter in that instance. And so I think, and go thereafter. I'm done speaking. I'm done.
Well, yeah, I think there is a lot of like plain open statements of like, this is not what you should do, this is not what you should do. I think people are free to have kids educated whatever way they want, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys heard the story of Polgar, I guess is the name. She's David, if you don't mind muting. There is this chess player that his dad, they live in Hungary, and the dad of Holger wanted her to be one of the top players, so there was always concentrating on her playing chess, right? And the guy got a lot of criticism of like how hard he pushed his daughter, but his daughter is a top player right now. It's the first woman, was the youngest woman to reach the grandmaster position in chess, right? And she has beaten the top players in the world. Like, I think she's top 10 in the world right now, and she makes a lot of money. So I think people can judge that older.
I'd be willing to bet she doesn't make it from chess.
Yeah, well, how much you want to bet?
How much does she make from playing chess? I'm just asking.
She makes more than $100,000 a year playing chess.
Does that mean 101?
I don't know. You can go.
Okay, so the answer is you don't know, which is fine. So I'm going to stand on what I said. Just give me a second. I will go on mute. I bet you she doesn't make a shitload of money playing chess. What I suspect is that it's from endorsements, maybe social media, because generally speaking, people who play chess don't make a lot of.
Generally speaking, people who play chess don't make a lot of money, but saying that she's getting sponsorship because she's a top player.
Exactly. So she's getting it from sponsorships and advertising.
Because she's a top chess player, though. They are not sponsoring her because she's her good looks, right? She is getting sponsorship because she wins the top competition.
And she's a woman. If she was a man, she probably wouldn't be getting as much in sponsorships. Like
This is precisely what I don't want my kids to do, right? Like, I don't want them to enter tournament economies where most of the population who tries gets 0, and 5 people get all of the money that is associated. I don't want my kids to think that that's why I mentioned being a professional athlete. It's bad. I don't want my kids doing that.
And by the way, Adam, I just said the numbers you said the numbers you said are generous. I would say, like, out of 1,000 people, maybe 5 people make decent money.
Sure.
You were being
Yes, and I don't want them to think being an actor is a reasonable outcome. Just because, just even if you make it, it wasn't reasonable to think that you would make it. Yeah, so I don't believe in tournament economies are bad. I want them to focus, like, we're talking about statistics here, right? We're playing statistics. It's to assume they're in the middle 50 distribution of people who go into any field and pick based on that. Don't pick based on expecting to be the top point.
My comment wrong. I have a relationship with you, and that's not the thing for you to do, right? My point is, like, parents have a lot of degree to decide what they want their education to the children be, and judging them, I think it's really dumb because it's kind of subjective. Each one has their own opinion on what is the best for the kids. In that example, I was talking about how the parent of this particular person who makes I look $4 to $5 million, and yeah, it's a particular case, statistically very improbable, right? Very unlikely that you will have a top athlete kid in that.
Okay, so and just so we're clear, it just went from 6 figures to $4 or $5 million. Is that what I heard correctly?
No,
I didn't hear that. Okay.
No, I said that you said, I bet that she doesn't make a lot of money playing chess, right?
I said yes, and I said she probably makes a majority of her money from advertising and sponsorships. Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, there's still money for playing chess. But the point was that you shouldn't judge the parent for their decision. Someone may say, I want my kid to be a scientist, or someone would say, I want my kid to be a professional baseball player or something, and I'm going to invest in that, and that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like parents should be free to take that decision, and judging them for that, it's kind of dumb. So I felt like sin comments to Adam out of place.
I get what you're saying. We're on the same page.
Okay, so that's the end of my comment.
Well, I don't mean to. I'm just stating the fact that that's the future he's gonna continue. If he,
you don't know that.
People know their own children.
So if I'm not wrong,
I've got kids. I know. Maybe what I'm saying is, by the age of 12, you can probably predict your kid's social aptitudes and proclivities and motivations. And are you telling him that just by pushing his kid to succeed and enabling him with resources, his kid's going to resent him? That's fucking ridiculous.
Well, it's have happened, and there's a lot of use cases for that.
Yeah, but to say it's going to happen is like,
I would just say
likely. It's greater than 50%.
Oh my God!
Why do you think it's greater than 50%? Why do you think
it's not likely? I mean, I work as a scientist. I work for a pharmaceutical company. Lots of Asians in my company, and all of their parents, when they talk about how they were all raised in the way that I'm talking, and they all have relationships with their parents. All of them.
Yeah, I would. Again, it's just a crystal ball, but I would think that Adam's kids would totally appreciate. I mean, they know that he's paying $120,000 a year to give them the best education possible, which means they're making the best
after-tax money too.
Yeah, they're making the best contacts possible to get
What
them future.
if Steve, if they don't like what they're doing because he forced them to do what he wants them to do?
Why do you think it's probable? Likely. More likely.
You know what? Let me say this. I'll give you a short.
Does Sin just think that all Asian kids want to be doctors and lawyers and scientists? Do you think that every Asian kid just like dreams of that?
Let me give you
so Chinese and so Indian. It's not because the kids are like all lining up and saying from the time they're babies, this is what I want to do.
Let me give you a 60-second personal family experience. I have a niece, a blood niece. She graduated from UCLA with honors and got a 25. She got like a partial scholarship to Harvard because she wanted to go to law school. That's Harvard Law School. She got a full ride, a 100% scholarship to go to UCLA Law School. And of course, we live in Southern California. This won't take more than 60 seconds. My brother her father, could afford to pay for Harvard, but she didn't want her dad, my brother, to be burdened with that. And by the way, although Harvard clearly worldwide, nationwide, has better recognition than UCLA, UCLA is still a top fucking law school. She chose UCLA. One of the main reasons is that she didn't want her dad, my brother, to be burdened with paying for the tuition. She got a full ride to UCLA. She graduated UCLA Law School with honors and has been an attorney for a couple of years now. She could have gone to Harvard, but she wanted to save her dad some money.
Well, that's a great kid to think in that sense. That's a good person. But I'm just saying that you have to be careful with your kids, not forcing them and putting too much pressure on them to be what you want them to be rather than them trying to figure out what they want. So, I mean, statistically speaking, David, 50% of all kids don't have a relationship with their parents already.
What percent did you say?
Over 50% of their
That's
already don't have in America.
that's
What I'm saying is not
that's very hard to compute.
Well, look it up. Yeah, just check out Pew Search.
Yeah, look it up.
Look it up for yourself. A lot of American kids don't have a relationship with their parents for one reason or another. So what I'm saying is not particularly something against Adam. It's just as the research shows it, right?
50%.
So do you live in America? Because I live in America, and that's...
Oh, man, you don't know what that... Why do you keep harassing me about who I am and where I'm from?
Do you live in America?
Of course I do, man. What the fuck?
Because that is not my experience of America at all.
And by the way, I've got to chime in here. Hello. We don't use the N-word in the atheism.
Oh, no, my bad. I didn't finish saying that.
That's okay. We don't use the N-word in the atheism house. Please continue.
He didn't even catch it, so
He heard it. I heard it.
Do you disagree with that?
Everybody heard it.
I was trying to show him that I'm American too. Just keeps telling
That's not being
All just don't use the N-word. Sorry. And if you want to know why, it's very simple. I don't like
give it to you in a nice time, though.
It actually doesn't surprise me if that statistic is accurate. I mean, it's probably hard to get good statistics on something like that, but I don't think it's, especially between boomers and millennials, there's a lot of broken relationships.
I mean, I did a quick search at ChatGPT, and it says 16% of American adults say they are currently estranged from at least one parent. So if you're
less than 20%,
even less.
which means that 85% of them get along.
I mean, out of every 10 people,
16% is still very high.
I thought it was 15%. Did you say 1 to 5%?
If you're a parent, zero.
I'm sorry. Did I hear 1 5%? Yes or no?
Carlos said 16.
Oh, are you saying 60%? 60%?
I'm thinking
1.6, which means that
less than 20.
thank you, which means that 84% get along.
It's glass half full, and I appreciate that, Steve. But if anyone who's a parent and raising young kids and putting their heart and soul into the life of these children, you would feel concerned about 16% risk of losing a relationship with your child.
I would think that 84% success rate is pretty fucking good.
From a parent's perspective or from a
Yes.
statistics perspective?
From a parent's perspective.
Are you a parent?
Well, I said 5 minutes ago, and it's okay if you didn't hear it, that I raised 2 kids. They're both in their 30s, so the answer is yes.
Okay.
Can I just say that estrangement or that 10 to 16% is only a 1 to 4 year period in most of those cases too. So it's not a long term in most of those cases. So yeah, you can say that it's up to 15, 16% don't have a relationship, but it doesn't last forever in most cases.
Yeah, I didn't even bring that up. Is the 15% for life or just temporary? I didn't even ask that.
I want to ask a
The
really
original claim was over 50%. So I mean, let's just stare at the receipt. Send. Where the fuck did you get it?
Yeah, okay, Comrade. Okay, everybody go on mute. Comrade wants to interrupt the entire conversation. Go ahead, Comrade. Go ahead.
Sin. So I noticed your profile picture is a chimpanzee, and you use the N-word. Are you black?
So yeah, getting back to the 26%.
No, you're not.
Okay, so hello, Comrade. The answer is he doesn't want to answer your question right now. But that being said, Comrade, go on mute, and then you can blend in. Go on mute. Comrade, go on mute, please.
Do you understand that?
Second, Comrade, I'm asking you a second polite time. Go on mute.
It's racism, dude.
Okay, third.
So I did exaggerate the percentage. I stand corrected. 6% with their mothers, 26% with their fathers. So the average means would be 16%. That sounds about right. But which is 26% of not having a relationship with your father. That's problematic. I think 26%.
What went up to this the significance of this statistic? Why are we talking about that statistic?
Putting pressure on your kids to succeed.
We were talking about how it's best and not best to raise your kids. That's what brought it.
You know, it's best to not raise your kids if you're non-black.
Oh, okay, now you got it. Okay, Comrade, fair enough. Comrade, do you have kids?
No, but...
Okay, so just so we're clear, hold on, Comrade. So you have no experience raising kids. How long, Comrade? I'm not done with you. I'm not done with you. How old are you?
34.
Okay, and what city or state do you live in? I'm in Los Angeles, California, just so you know.
Yeah.
What city or state are you in?
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia, very good. And do you even have a girlfriend?
I've had many,
You've had many, but currently none, correct?
Who cares?
I care. We'll try again. Do you currently have a girlfriend?
I have 2.
You can leave.
You have no girlfriend. That's all I need to know. And Comrade, I've been in workers' compensation, employment, and labor law for over 30 years. What is your profession? What do you do for a living?
Public health.
Public health. Can you be more specific?
I'm a peer outreach specialist.
I'm sorry, you're a what?
A peer outreach specialist. What does this have to do with
I'll tell you what this has to do with, because you've been making comments about those of us that have children, yet you have none. So what?
When did I do?
Please be more. I answered your question. Please be more specific. What is it that you do, a peer outreach specialist? What does that mean?
I support people who don't have homes and struggle with substance use disorder.
And are you employed by the government?
Not directly, no.
Well, not directly. Are you privately employed?
It's a nonprofit job.
It's a nonprofit job. And when do you expect to have children?
I may or may not.
Okay, very good. What I suggest you do then, since you do not have any immediate plans to have children, is to listen to those of us that do have children. Maybe let me finish.
Steve, why are you so mad? Yeah, why are you so mad? Let me propose this question to you, Steve.
Sure, go ahead. Ask your question.
For you, with kids, I think you'll agree with me. Do you think that we should discourage non-black people or people at all from using the N-word?
Okay, go on mute. Thank you for the question.
Are we just...
we're done for now. Go on mute.
Wait, can you read?
Go on, Steve. Go on, Steve. Why are you so upset?
Steve, come down. I didn't hear him. I had a break in my connection.
Very good. Ask the question again, because JCC wants the question.
No. Conrad was saying something. Imagine what? That's what
I asked him to repeat the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said, Steve, I then extended it.
You said
What I said.
Don't lie to me. You said non-black people, right?
You said both. I said both.
Okay, so let's take it a third and last time. Ask the question one last time.
Why are you having me repeat it? Why are you crashing out?
I'll tell you why I'm asking you to repeat it and why I'm crashing out.
I would not allow my child to use slurs like that.
Of course not. And the question's not even directed to Steve or anybody else. It's directed to Sin, who not confirmed whether or not he is black. And he used the N-word against a black person on the stage.
All right, fair enough. Stop.
Why are you cutting me off?
Because I own the house and I can do whatever I want. If you don't like it, open up your own room.
I'm talking about something you did.
You know what? Tell you what, let's make it real simple. Let's make it real simple. Hey, comrade.
It's not comrade, it's me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Carlos opened this room. So I think it was about morality and secularism. And now we're talking about slurs. So I don't know, can we get
I'll tell you what, JCC, if you want to keep it in the line, I'll go on mute. You got it, brother.
Cool.
I'm very surprised at you, Steve. I don't know why you're acting like this because...
Really? Do you know me?
Yeah, I would expect you to be this
When was the last time we spoke?
Adam is black.
Comrade, when was the last time we spoke?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, then how do you think I know you?
Wait.
I
am confused too, Steve, why you're acting like this.
Wait, why are you?
We were discussing parenting and children.
You, Steve, not the other way around.
And there was something said about what's best for parenting children, and there were some percentages about losing, relationship with children. Where'd that come from? I'm curious.
Adam and Sam were engaged about parenting and pathways and affordances and constraints, and Sin declared Adam's parenting style to probabilistically lead to more likely than not his children would not talk to him.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a bit extreme.
Wait, really? How do you know this dude would talk to him? I had like that.
I was just giving the
Be talking about fucking old man?
synopsis.
And then I'm presuming...
Synopsis
And Sin used the N-word.
I did not use the N-word.
We all heard it.
Okay. So Steve has a hard, fast rule. That is not to be...
Yeah, and I did. I sort of halfway said it. I didn't fully.
You fully
said it. Sin apologized for it.
He did not apologize for it. And again,
He didn't admit to saying it. He
He
denied it. As soon as you deny it, you're
Wait. This is the most important thing. This dude has a chip as his profile picture, and there's no evidence that he's even black, right? So sure, no one should. Oh my God, no one should.
Are we doing the hierarchy of oppression cards here?
DC, you're let out of the cage.
Yeah, do we have a bunch of white people just getting non-black
JC, control this shit or I will.
Okay, you do it too. I'm in a bad spot. I get back connection.
You got it, buddy. Okay.
That means I'm in trouble instead of the people defending racism, right?
All right, so I think we should
Can I share
establish
my perception on the exchange?
Johnny, I don't think we've heard from Johnny, have we?
You did hear from me earlier, and I think you may have actually confused my voice with comrades.
I would love to hear your opinion, Johnny. Take a minute.
Sin used a word none of us are a fan of.
It's called the N-word. I pointed it out to him. He immediately apologized. Please continue.
I did hear him apologize also when Comrade was frustrated because of what he
because he perceives that sin is non-black person, and
He also didn't like my authority of trying to get the room back under control. Please continue.
Agreed.
I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm the head mod. I'm the owner of the house. Go on mute. That's what I'm talking about.
But then I believe
Go on mute, comrade. Thank.
And I believe Comrade wanted to find out whether or not sin was black, and Brett pressed him on it, and that seemed to frustrate you, and then everything kind of spiraled after that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the room's not about who's black, who's not black, right?
You said a slur.
I did not use a slur.
Yes,
No, I
you
did.
did.
Because I don't think
The word is a slur.
Did you just say he apologized for it? Let's
What do
move
you mean
on.
he apologized for it? If a white person says the
Dude,
N-word,
he's
or a
not-
non-white
he's saying
person
it's
says
not a
the
slur.
N-word, it doesn't
He's not
matter if they
apologizing for it.
apologize.
Sin.
What?
Just say you identify
He's not
as black, and then you can say it. That's all
He's
you
not-
have to do.
I move
Just say you
He's not-
identify as
I did
black.
not call anybody that word, no.
I just move him to the audience. Okay.
I'm sorry you moved to the audience.
I move Sin to the audience.
Well, you're the super mod. It's on you.
Okay, so
I mean, it's my house, but you're the super mod. You can do whatever you want.
so we can. I think that it's a good rule. We don't want people to using the N-word.
It doesn't matter if it's a good rule. It's a rule, period. Don't do it.
And we need to try to discourage that kind of behavior. We can go back to the conversation, which was if parents have the right to essentially decide what to do with their kids. I mean, it was not the original one, but it evolved into that.
Well, since no one's talking, and I realize occasionally even I can get out of line, and that's why JCC has the absolute right to say, hey, Steve, you're getting a little out of line, or take a shit break, or whatever the case may be. We have very few rules here. One rule, no N-word, period, end of story. Next, as long as y'all are not insulting each other too much and speaking over too much, I will let you go as long as you want to. I'll just listen. But when people start arguing, when the personal attacks start happening, when 5 people start speaking at once, that's where I have to do my thing.
What do you guys want to talk about? You guys want to talk about the same teaching or secularism?
Can I talk to the title? Yeah, I would say that secularism is the best way to reach the goal of having a moral society, because I think values are agnostic. And what I mean by that is, let's say Adam is very religious, of some denomination, some religion. And let's say I'm not religious at all. If we act in the same way and our behaviors are the same, such that we respect the rights of other people, we pursue our own interests without harming others, then what's important is that we share the same values. And a third person, say Steve or JCC, looking at the two of us behaving in the same way, raising our children to respect others and be courteous, polite, kind, etc., hardworking, then Steve and JCC may not be able to tell who's religious and who's not. Let's say we don't wear, jewelry or crosses or whatever the case may be. So the values that are internal to the society are really agnostic, because kindness is not unique to religion. Hard work is not unique to religion. The values are independent and shared across, religions and societies. So I think being secular allows people to behave with a moral compass independent of any specific religion. If I want to be religious, then I can do that, but the behavior, that's observed is still the same.
Well said. Oh, I forgot one other rule. When a moderator is speaking, be quiet.
That was well said, and I agree. And I think even prior to Homo sapiens walking the planet, or even any hominids, morality was there. So therefore, it started off secular. It's demonstrated that you don't need any kind of belief in a deity to have morals.
And by the way, very quickly, for those of you that don't know, we've been joined by Alfonso, who is the founder of the Atheism House. So for any of you that don't know Alfonso, he's the founder.
He's the creator.
Nice.
I didn't want to also is our what's that?
I didn't want to interrupt the mod, but it's all right.
Thanks for creating the room, Carlos.
So what's the flaw in my argument? If I'm saying that values are agnostic, an argument.
There is no flaw. It's I gave you compliments. It's a great argument.
Values are eminently wise.
I think one thing that people seem to like, we're not negotiating values here. That's what I'm saying. We're negotiating outcomes and norms, right? So morality, and I don't think morality is meant to be legislated. Moral behavior, but we're still we're looking for establishing norms, right? And norms, we have to be inclusive group wise and as much as possible. So I think what secularism does is it forces integrative negotiation. I think a good example, and it also separates the personal values from the public norms, right? You have personal values, you can live by those values, right? And it doesn't, and they generally, as long as they don't violate the public norms, like the good of the public. And something like same-sex marriage, right, is a good example, right? What we're legislating there is contract law, basically. If a man can enter into a contract with a woman, then a woman should be able to enter in that same type of contract with a woman, and vice versa, right? And that's really what it comes down to. It's eliminating discrimination on the basis of sex in contract law, and recognizing that within the secular realm, we're establishing norms around contracts, right? The moral or values-based aspect of it is when I go to have a commitment ceremony of whatever type, and I walk into a evangelical Baptist church and they turn me away, that's fine, right? I just need to find a officiant, right, or someone to perform the ceremony that it's within their values to go ahead and do same-sex marriage ceremonies, right? So that's the difference. And what I object to is like people trying to legislate their moral values and preferences into societal norms, especially in cases where it restricts the liberties of others, and the exercise of those liberties has no negative, net negative to the public and society at large.
I agree with that. I would just add that ethical behavior is downstream of values. So if then you rock that value, behave is a priority.
Can you say that again, Brian? You were breaking up really bad.
I said that Moral ethics are downstream of values. So if I value life, then that priority value.
It sounds like a tautology. I mean, I'm not trying to cut them off, but to just shift it and say, well, your values are your morals. What have you really said? What informs your values? Can you be more specific?
Yeah, what I'm saying is you have to start with values, and primarily
what informs those?
With valuing
the conditions around you.
Well, the most fundamental question you have to ask yourself is, do I want to live or not? And then from there, you say, okay, I value my life. And from there, cooperating with others, etc. So valuing life is
exactly robust to someone else saying that they value their life more than your life. I mean, you're just saying, I value my own life, only your own life, or kinship. Like maybe you look around, you live, you were born into a society. Maybe you have duties, responsibilities, laws. Like what informs your values? It can't just be like, I'm alive.
I think I can answer that very quickly. If I may, very quickly. Morality. You didn't say morality, but I'll say it. Morality is an individual's sense of attitudes, values, and beliefs which are based on a right, wrong, good, bad scale. Let me repeat it. Morality is an individual's attitudes, values, and beliefs based on good, bad, right, and wrong.
I also would say, Brian, that it also depends on how you are qualifying life, right? Because if we flatly say that life has value, right? I would say that for most things, particularly fellow mammals, the plants and trees around us, my family, and etc. But they don't all have the same weight and value, right? I don't think about the bacteria that die because I brush my teeth or floss. I don't think about the insects that die when I walk down the street. I don't think about the extinguishment of life when I eat spinach, for example, right? So this categorization of the first thought is that life, whether or not life has value. Well, no, we have an evolutionary drive, particularly when we're young, to survive, so that we can reproduce and pass on our genes, right? This is a drive that most life forms have, right? This then gives us a base psychologically to try to defend or fight for our livelihood. Now, when we become social and we start interacting with other individuals or living things that have similar levels of autonomy to ourselves, right? We have to kind of deliberate and communicate with one another when it comes to the battle for resources, land, and space so that our lives can be stable, right? And over time, as we live in collectives, the conditions at which we engage with one another to ensure our collective health or the health of us as individuals eventually becomes ethics. Because there are people who could just take away from other people to ensure their survival more, or to kill other people and things to ensure their survival, right? That would make sense evolutionarily. But that's not necessarily the right way to go about life and to engage with other individuals that have an equal level of autonomy.
I think that what Brian was saying, I'm sorry if I misrepresent you, Brian, but this is my understanding of what you're saying. It's he just gave an example of some key values, but the way you derive your values is just very personal and subjective. People can derive values differently. What I think something that's important, what Cora says, is the outcomes can help us to go back to our values and adapt our values and say morality, because if you're not willing to make changes and adapt given your outcomes, then you're just stuck into this
into this particular framework that those are my values and they can never change. But if you see the outcomes and start saying like, well, maybe we can adopt and become better and improve our values so that we get the outcomes that we value.
Yeah, what I'm saying is,
I think it kind of got in reverse, Brian. I think instead of starting with a value and then interpreting everything through those values, you should do it the reverse. Look at what the facts are, what happens when we do this, X, Y, or Z, and then you should build your values based on what the facts are. In the philosophy of ethics, are sort of three main categories that it breaks down into. One is normativity, like that's basically what should I do? That's normativity. The second one is metaethics, which is about what does it mean to say that something is right or wrong, and the last category is applied ethics. What should you do? Like that stuff like stem cell research. Applied ethics, like that's all applied ethics, and I think you should.
What I'm saying is,
the facts are instead of the facts.
You decide that you want to live. That's as a human being, and so, comrade, I agree. I should have clarified. Human life is more important because of the type and nature of our sentience and consciousness. So we can decide, not to live. We can decide what to live for. But underneath that, more fundamental to that is, do I want to live or not? And so I think that's the most fundamental value, the most fundamental question, because if you don't value your life, then you could just as well drink poison. You could drink poison or water. Either one is okay, because you don't care if you die or not.
Yeah.
But if you do care, then you have to follow the facts of nature. You have to obey the laws of physics. You have to obey the requirements of human nature to survive, and from there the rest follows.
But so for instance, there are nihilists. I don't know if you know what nihilism is, but nihilism just means that things don't have intrinsic meanings. They don't have intrinsic value. So you just kind of you just be forcing these people to conform to your norms, to your values. And that's the entire goal they were trying to.
No, they can choose not to live. If someone is a nihilist and chooses not to find meaning or not to pursue his or her own life, then that's his or her choice.
Well, there's also
accept the value of life.
And before you go, comrade, firstly, I got your private message. Thank you for that. My answer, generally, I don't read the group chat because, in all seriousness, and I mean this sincerely, I have an eyesight I can see, but I'm visually challenged. Last but not least, comrade, I agreed with a lot of it, and I think although you and I got off to a rough start, I think you and I are going to just be fine. It's a pleasure to get to know you. Go ahead,
Steve, we know each other.
Well, I asked you when was the last time we spoke. You said you didn't remember.
No, I said it's been a few months.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I don't remember. Go ahead, buddy.
So, Brian, what I was going to say to you is that the thing is, in this hypothetical, there's a fascinating thing you're presenting. First, I would say that humans don't start out as maximum autonomy agents, as adults that can make a decision of whether or not, they immediately want to quote unquote live a life or not. We start out as infants and then children, and we grow up. And during that period is a period of exploration. And kids they don't come out of the womb and think like, oh, do I want to live or die, right? And even then, after people grow up, we do have an issue with suicide, but it's not like 50-50. It's not like large sums of the population are just like calling themselves off, right? So when we're talking about this, it's not purely, an intellectualization
of why people act and do certain things. It is really based upon the conditions at which we come into this earth, right? So genuinely, I think what is divorced from ethics is the understanding about the material and social pressures that result in the conclusions that people make about the world. You come to conclusions about the world because your parents teach you a certain thing, because the people around you think certain things, because you have certain resources available or not available to you. So, like, if you had nothing around and the only way to get resources was to steal, stealing wouldn't be seen as a negative thing for you. It's the only way you can survive, right? So really, it is the external existential pressures which determine, these psychological outcomes.
I think that in that scenario, someone who doesn't value his life would resort to stealing. A person who values his life, both in the short term and the long term, would look for cooperative ways to develop skills or create value amongst the members of that society to say, I want to earn, I want to provide value in exchange for value. I don't want to steal because that harms the quality and existence of my life, because I might get shot, I might get put in prison, I might get, beat up. So someone who values his life would not resort to stealing. He would find a way to create value and earn his way.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you qualify stealing. Like, for example, if we talk about, the billionaires that exist on the planet, the vast majority of them, there is no fucking way they could have accumulated that amount of wealth without the exploitation of other individuals, right? Some of the wealthiest Western countries on the planet got that wealth from the resources extraction.
Are you sure you want to die on that hill?
Yeah, of other countries, right?
Are you sure you want to die on the hill that 100% of all billionaires took advantage of it?
That is not what I said.
Okay, what did you say?
I said the vast majority of the
majority. Okay, go ahead.
And there are countries, right, who became very wealthy. The person who is starving on the street, their back garbage bin, and you go and you trash pick from that's technically stealing that from that building. But what if you need food, right? It's not a question of whether or not they value their life. It is a question of necessity and them extending their lives, and also a question of the collective morality of the society that you live under. It's not that cut and dry. It's not that black and white.
I mean, they might not value honesty, which I think is the most very common thing to happen. They don't value honesty. It's not their life that they don't value. They don't value honesty, and then they're stealing because they feel that they can get away with it. Right? No consequences.
If you're poor and you need to steal food to eat, to live, you are not being dishonest. You're just.
Yeah. That's one example of one thing that could happen. Someone who is very poor and to survive, then they need to steal. I agree, that's not dishonest. But then there is another example that your life doesn't depend on it, and you still want to steal because you want to have more money or car or whatever you're stealing. You just want to have it for you, and you can steal it because you don't value honesty.
Sure.
As much as yes.
I think it's I think what Brian's saying is kind of dumb. I'm a middle child, had a younger brother and older sister, and growing up, my mom raised the three of us, sparks up, and she did her best job, but we didn't always have food, and my brother often went hungry, and like we were best buds. He would tell me, I'm hungry, and a lot of times my mom wasn't around, she's working a bunch of jobs, and so, I'm kind of the responsible one. Some kind of ways. And he would tell me, I'm hungry, what can we eat? We would check the kitchen and find that, there's just fucking nothing in there. Okay, so me, of course, I'm a child, I don't have any money, so I would go to the store and steal fucking bread, okay, and peanut butter so that we can make a sandwich for my little brother, all right? Now, if you're going to tell me that I don't value life because I did something like that when I was a child, well, fuck you, I'm sorry.
I love you, Ellie.
Thanks for sharing that, Elliot. Sorry you had it rough. That comment was directed at Brian, but it's not yours.
Yeah, I think his PFP was a Bible verse. I think he has like a religious view of what morality is.
Put him in the stocks.
I think the other thing is like the way he like framed nihilism. You know, I'm recognizing that something has no objective or intrinsic meaning, right? Doesn't immediately mean that you don't value things, right? If from a supernatural being, right, that objectively is good, right? Suicide, sure, when their life, right, ceases to provide them with any sort of like value, that's where they get to that point. You know, but they aren't benefiting from being alive.
I think that just like I also found it quite odd. Like he's not the first person I heard make this argument, but like this kind of thing where you have to choose whether or not you value your existence, as if that's an even like there was never a point where I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm choosing to, want to live on Earth today, or I'm choosing to want to eat meat, or I'm choosing to, be straight or gay. Like it's not a choice. You just you kind of exist here, and this is how you are.
Oh, you're gonna go into free will now?
I'm very much a pretty orthodox physicalist. I take a thermodynamic view of free will, so it wouldn't really jive with the way people talk about free will.
By the way, my brother is doing like extremely well. So he's been in the military for 19 years now. He's married, he has 2 kids. He's one of the best people I've ever met. I'd stack him against any of you there's any day of the week. He's just an extremely upstanding human being, and I'm absolutely glad that I did what I did. Yeah, I'm also very proud of my brother, and I think he's better than your brother.
I was going to say, you should think the same thing about yourself, Elliot. I've met a lot of people throughout the interwebs, and you're a pretty upstanding individual.
And I kicked, what's his name for his comments in the chat there, Conrad.
Oh, I didn't even see what he was saying.
Yeah, he fucked himself even more so in the side chat.
Yeah, no, I knew as soon as I saw the Chimp profile picture that he was definitely a racist troll.
Who are we talking about?
Sin?
Thank you.
You bet.
Yes, and comrade, please forgive me. I'm getting old, but that's no excuse. I don't remember our conversations from a few months ago. If you wanted to refresh my memory and tell me what we talked about, I'd probably remember it, but I don't remember those conversations.
were the only intelligent person in Talking Apes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, if I may, with all due respect, JCC used to be another intelligent person in Apes, but I don't think he goes there too often.
Wait,
I saw him. I think I saw him a day or two ago.
Wait, JCC, you were in Talking Apes.
Yeah. What about Talking Apes?
You were in it?
What do you mean I was in it?
I didn't know you went to the Talking Apes.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a member of their house anymore, but I go in there on occasion.
Jesus Christ.
They're a bunch of dumbasses.
Yeah, it's true.
And if you really want to be blown away, and I'm not blowing at confidence, Cora used to go into Talking Apes every so often as well, but she hasn't been in there in a long while because, and these are my own words, they fucking kicked the shit out of her, and I was totally pissed off about it.
They probably kicked her because she was a woman that was smarter.
They kicked the shit out of her because she's an intelligent human being, period, end of story. That's my humble.
They're really sexist and homophobic.
Yeah, there was a huge degree of misogyny involved.
Are you guys talking about the Talking Apes? I got mixed opinions about that, but one of my favorite people on the app is actually his name, the fucking Canadian dude. What's his name?
Jeremy, aka Cypher.
Jeremy. One of the main reasons I like to go to the Talking Apes group is just because Jeremy will be in there just talking about anything.
Yes, he's very entertaining, but also, and you can quote me, get your tape recorders ready, he is a motherfucking piece of shit a-hole. And you can repeat that I said that, and I'll give you examples. He just recently advocated within the past 48 hours that he endorses an abortion at 8.5 months, number one. Number two, he endorses male children, that would be children under 13, required to get a vasectomy. He endorses male kids under 13 being required to get a vasectomy. You can quote me, you can tell anybody I said that.
Wait, why?
He is a motherfucking asshole.
Why does he advocate that?
You'll have to ask him.
Given what I know about him, I'm kind of tempted to say that he's trolling you, because that's his sort of modus operandi, to troll people. But I mean, on the other hand, he might actually believe it.
Fair enough, he's trolling. But he said it, I verified it. If he's trolling, he's trolling. Which is why I consider him a motherfucking asshole idiot.
Not much. I see replay hidden profile. Is that just like it hides it from the profile but it's still recording? Does anyone know of the mods how we can prevent this from this replay from going up?
Yeah. You might have just turned it off on your profile. You have to go to the three dots to the right and go down and find other replay options and then turn it off. Disable replays.
You're scared of Jeremy now? Come on. Okay, Jeremy, if you're listening to this replay, every time I hear you speak, you remind me of the Canadians from South Park, where the top half of your head is disconnected from the bottom half of your head, and you just talk a lot of shit. Bring it on.
Yeah, and by the way, you please feel free, take a minute and say how you disagree with me and you think how Jeremy is better than sliced bread, and then you're covered.
No. Jeremy and I have disagreed vehemently. He knows I disagree with him pretty virulently. So I would not be endorsing the dude at all.
got nothing to hide. I use my real name first and last. That's my real picture from last year. It's AI, like about 10 or 15%. And I'm very careful about speaking when, on Clubhouse, because I know anything and everything can be recorded. And Jeremy, currently known as Cyberpunk, says a lot of things which I confirm that he says he believes in. He might be lying. But based on those things, I find him to be one of the biggest pieces of shit motherfucking assholes on the...
So watch out talking like that, Steve. There's people out here who have the same opinion of you.
And that's okay. And I got no problem with that. And I totally get it. I encourage them to come on. I mean, I've been holding the same rooms on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for 3 hours for over 5 years. And anybody could come in and talk to me. And I use my real name. Anybody, if they want, can find me, which hopefully they don't. This is why I have a pit bull and a 9mm. So, but if anybody disagrees with me, I would prefer they just disagree with me on Clubhouse. And disagree with me, let's talk.
Which 9mm do you have?
I have a Glock 17.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
You should get a newer Glock model. But
well, I'm not a gun guy. I'm not a gun expert. I have a pit bull, and I'm going to get either eaten or shot. I don't carry it around with me. It goes two places. It stays at home, or it goes to the firing range. If somebody catches me out on the road or out on the freeway, I'm telling you right now, I don't carry a gun in my car, but I carry it in my home. And so, there you have it. That's it.
You should make a PCC.
What is a PCC?
It's not a PCC. It's like an AR pistol. I'm saying it.
Oh, I'm not modifying. No. I appreciate the recommendation. I'm not modifying anything. I bought it for what it is, and I use it for what it is, and I'm not that experienced in guns like Marshall, and I see Marshall has the phone whatever there. I mean, Marshall knows. Let me rephrase. Marshall has forgotten more about firearms than I will ever know. Okay, so I just use it for home defense. Fortunately, I've never had to use it. The only time I carry it around with me is from the car to the firing range, and that's it. If someone wants to mug me when I'm going to Ralph's and shopping, they can have everything that's on me. I don't care.
I feel it. You're still pretty cool.
Steve, if somebody tried to mug you at the Ralph's, they'd probably get a lesson in employment labor law.
Yeah, right. No, I'll tell you what they would get. They would get under $50 in cash. They would get my credit card, and they would get under $50 in cash, and they would get my credit card. And that's it.
My shopping list.
My shopping list. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I could probably get your phone and then turn this conversation.
Oh, I'm sorry. They would have my iPhone too. They would get my iPhone. Yes, they would get my iPhone. Yes. Hey. My life is worth a lot more than that. Take it, because everything at Ralph's is on film. Plus, they have the security guard there, so it's all filmed. I'll get you later. I'll get you.
for fighting for your little brother. Yeah, that's cool. And the rest of your family. Been in similar situations too.
He's my baby brother, man. What else am I gonna do? Now he's forces medic. He's like he's gonna retire pretty soon. He's basically just doing like training. Goes around the country and he trains. There's only like a gal definitely does. Funny comrade, my sister also went in as a Patty Boat whiskey. That's what I bet.
Well, it seems that the room kind of died off. I think it's a good stopping point. Thank you guys for contributing, and keep coming to the atheism.
Thank you. Don't close it out. Don't close it out. You can leave, but I'm gonna take it over. Don't close it out.
You're gonna keep it open? Okay.
I'm gonna keep it open. Yes, sir. Thank you, Carlos, for opening up the room. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm gonna keep it open. All right, there we go. We'll go ahead and change the title. Let's see here. We'll start off by making it open. Let's see here. Open. There we go. And let's see if anybody wants to come up and talk. I'm looking at the audience. I don't see anybody raising their hand. I'm going to go ahead and make Comrade a moderator. Comrade, have you been a mod before? No, yes, maybe.
I don't want to be a mod.
You don't want to be a mod? Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. No problem. You won't.
But yeah, I've moderated before, I just don't.
No, it's okay, buddy. No sweat. All right, there we go. No sweat, man.
I might drop anyway. We're supposed to get a Draco here, and it's expected to be quite severe. It's probably gonna produce tornadic producing storm. Go observe it real quick.
Are you going underground?
There's no option. That's not how the buildings are constructed here. But we are at the topmost point of the hill. And also, if a tornado, because when I was a little kid, I used to study meteorology because I'm autistic. Where we are, if a tornado is generated, is mostly going to worry about flooding. But it doesn't seem too bad right now. The clouds were too fast moving, so I don't think it was able to really form well. We'll see. Might lose power though.
did you get a chance? Also, I was gonna say earlier, you are like the atheist muse. You're like our spiritual advisor. Kind of a lot of ways. Steve, did you get a chance to read the AP link I put in the chat?
No, I didn't. Do you want a green bean?
Not really.
Okay, then you won't get one. And the answer is no, I didn't read it. No. Just check my hallway, and there's another room that says, "Does God exist?" I'm thinking maybe I should retitle this one, "Does God exist?" What do y'all think? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I'm going to do it. I made it slightly different.
I think topics like kind of, thinking through it rationally, if they're sort of convinced by the people that they trust, their family, their friends, their fellow church members, that kind of thing, and they all kind of believe in the same thing, and they didn't arrive at that by a silly effort in some kind of way.
I would like a title that along the lines of what knowledge informs wisdom.
You know what? I just thought of a new title. I'm going to put it up there, but if Alfonso, you don't like it, I'll change it. I'm going to put up a new title. Hopefully everybody will.
Well, we're putting money on the line now? What the hell? Prove to you, Steve, or prove to the world?
Oh, I would say you can prove it to me or prove it to the media. I will pay you $500 if you can prove to me or the media that God exists.
What are you doing?
What's the problem, JCC? If you please convince me, I'll erase it.
No, some woman was driving on the wrong side of the road.
Oh, sorry, buddy, sorry.
I'm hot Nike, so yeah, gave me flashbacks of my head-on collision.
Yeah, no, I thought he was talking about my $500. Yes.
No.
All right, Steve, how about this? Let's say, all right, I'm going to prove God exists right now. Okay.
Before you do, should I increase it to $1,000 or is $500 good enough? I wanted to make sure people believed it. They believe $500. You know, I've got the money. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my left shoe is God. My left shoe exists, therefore God exists. I've just proved that God exists. So,
You don't even want to ask whether or not you proved. You just think because you did that you proved God exists.
In argument form, he did.
All right, very good. Tell you what then, let's do this. Go to any of the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, what's the other one? Fox. Tell them that you proved God exists and have them run a news story that there is, gentlemen that proved God exists, and I'll pay you the $500 immediately.
Oh man, if I went on Fox News, we would not talk about God. He turned me into
They talk about God on Fox News all the time. They talk about God on Fox News all the time.
One of the things that I noticed that they do a lot, at least on the mainstream, what am I looking for here? What's the word I'm looking for here?
I mean, I'm just figuring that since Fox News talks about God all the time, that if someone were to be able to prove God exists, that would be their first story, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe. Okay. All right.
I notice a lot of times, like they'll have like let people on their shows. And with it seems like their goal is to like use them as a cudgel to attack the like center left.
Their goal is to make money, and how do they make money? By selling advertising. Eaton, sorry I had to cut you short on this morning's show. I love your contributions. Come in earlier tomorrow.
Oh, Eitan, your mic is low. There you go.
So what time you're out there in the West, right? I forgot, I haven't been in the app for a while, so what time is your show, Steve?
7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. 7 a.m. Pacific Standard.
Alright, so, it's about 10 hours. Okay, I got it. So, if you're 7 a.m., it's my 5 o'clock in the evening. Alright, cool. I love it. I love your show.
3 hours only.
Eaton, you're very kind. Thank you very much, Eaton.
Thank you. So what's going on in this room? So what are we talking about?
We're talking about Eitan.
It's one of my favorite subjects.
What are you up to?
Nice. It's just
your part of the world.
Saturday night here, and I kind of got stood up for a date tonight, so I'm just chilling.
Shalom.
Well, she had a good reason for not coming, so that's cool. But shalom's always good. Shalom's a good idea. Anybody have any cocktail suggestions while I'm here at the bar? Anybody got a favorite?
Temple.
Vodka martini, shaken, not stirred.
Oh, like a James Bond? Was that right? Was this a vodka martini? I know the shaken and not stirred bit, that for sure.
Shaken, not stirred, James Bond.
Yeah.
Margarita's always a good hit. Or if you like bourbon, get yourself an old fashioned.
Well, here's the thing I'm gonna probably for a little later on in the conversation. They always talk about who was the best Bond. So, does anybody want to just say quickly was it
Sean Connery?
Yeah, I think all the alpha males are gonna say that.
Yeah, except for me, I'm going to say Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Because Roger Moore was James Bond when I was getting into my teenage years. So for me, it's Roger Moore.
That's exactly when I started watching them.
And of course, we had Paul McCartney of all time.
But you see, being a tough guy. But now you got something with Roger Moore. He's like an elegant guy, being a tough guy. You got both sides of the coin that I think is kind of intriguing. No?
Yes.
So he's like the intelligent man's tough guy, you know.
Also, wasn't Roger Moore the spy who loved me as well, or no?
Yes.
Okay, so you had Roger Moore, Live and Let Die, and Roger Moore, The Spy That Loved Me. In my humble opinion, the two best theme songs of the James Bond.
All right, okay, theme songs.
Don't forget Octopussy.
Well, what was the theme song?
I don't know. I like the.
Okay, fine. Because the Spy That Loved Me was Carly Simon. And then You Live and Let Die was Paul McCartney, and they were both Roger Moore, yeah.
It wasn't a theme song by Paul McCartney, by the way. It was the
Say again.
Phenomenal song, Live and Let Die.
Yes.
Phenomenal song.
Yeah. No, that was definitely McCartney. Yeah, that was but Carly Simon doing what was it, Stargate? You said?
No, I didn't say Stargate. I said Carly Simon was the spy who loved me.
Oh, yeah.
And also, by the way, Roger Moore, his female nemesis was named Octopussy, right? We said that, no? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't go wrong with a woman named Octopussy, please.
Good things come in eights.
That's right.
Well, what's that? Okay, let's go with the Bond girls. Okay, right there. Which was your favorite Bond girl from all those movies?
Hold on. Before we go there, hold on. Before we go there, let's go to who is to be the next Bond girl. Okay, this is what is all over the internet. It's not confirmed, and this is what I want. Who do you think should be the next Bond girl? I clearly know.
You know, like who you think, or you know?
Yeah, I know who I want. It's not who I think it's going to be. It's who I want.
Okay, I got it.
Because in my mind, she is the for a whole. And JCC may know who I want. I don't know, but I've spoken about her. I've talked about her. To me, she is the hottest chick on the planet right now for a variety of reasons, and she should be the next Bond girl.
I haven't seen a lot of Western.
Okay, JCC, you know what I'm talking about. You probably don't, and that's okay.
Where have you seen? Can we get hints? This is interesting.
I'm just going to give you the answer. In my humble opinion, the next Bond girl, get your tape recorders ready, should be Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney should be the next Bond girl, without a doubt.
Wait a minute, I'm going to look that one up.
You can look it up. I can put it in the group chat. Sydney Sweeney, SYDNEY. Sydney Sweeney. That should be the next Bond. I think overall, she is the hottest woman on the fucking planet Earth. But you know what? I'm laughing.
No, I'm looking at her right now. She's got something interesting in her eyes. You know, it's looking at you.
And by the way, just so you know, you don't have to ask. Sydney Sweeney is all natural with zero tattoos. Just saying.
Oh, she's a woman after my heart. Unbelievable.
You got a discreet that title actually goes to Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek's got to be like 55 years old. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Salma Hayek. One of the greatest things I ever saw was at the Academy Awards both Salma Hayek and Penelope Cruz were on stage together doing an award. I love them, but they're 55 in their late 50s. Sydney Sweeney is in her late 20s. She's got to be 28, 29 years old.
You know, if we're going to go with middle-aged Latin women, I never got over my super crush on Eva Longoria, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Longoria.
Yeah, and you know what?
Longoria.
Eva Longoria. And, you know, I haven't done it in a while, but I'm going to do it here. You guys talk for a few minutes.
She dated, or married to, what's the name from the Spurs?
When she's married to who?
One of the Spurs players.
Right, okay, that's, yeah, I don't know.
I forgot his name. He was one of the shorter guys, point guard.
Yeah, which kind of reminds me, you remember that group called the Cars?
Yes.
He was dating, what was her name? Polina Porizkova. Remember her?
Yep.
Czech model.
Smoking hot.
Yeah, but oh my God.
Well, is she in some of the videos?
Well, I think she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Total waste if she wasn't, but every now and then they put their women on the videos, like Steve Perry, who had that girlfriend named Sherry or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Adam Sandler put his wife in some of those movies too. Why not? I think that Quentin Tarantino, I met him several times at the Tel Aviv, the Cinematheque, and he does have this hot wife, Daniela, and he put her in a movie too. So there are benefits to being married to some famous guy, I guess. Well, here's the thing I want to throw at you guys. This is an interesting subject. While we're on the topic of James Bond, they actually one of the what do you want to call it, the candidates, possibilities for being James, the black guy, something Idris. You know what I'm talking about?
Idris Elba.
Yeah, Idris Elba, right. He was up for Can't Be Him. And I think he said James Bond has to come from England, and he has to come from royalty or something like that. Does that make any sense to people, or did you go with that sentiment, or do you have anything to say about it? No.
Yeah, I heard about that. They were considering Idris Elba for James Bond. I think he'd be pretty damn good.
He would be sure.
I think probably the best thing, probably one of the best things, smartest things Quentin Tarantino has ever done is to write and direct a movie where he writes himself into the role of putting Salma Hayek's toes into his mouth. Okay, that's it.
Oh my God! I you know what movie was that? I do remember seeing a clip on that.
Still Dawn, the first one.
Oh, that's the one I didn't see, but you wonder about that. The guy, the guy's a big toe fetish or foot fetish, right? I mean, how did she consent to that? I mean, I don't know, but isn't that wonderful? You can write your own scenes.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
She's kind of known in the foot fetish world. They have like decent feet, I guess. I don't know. But he doesn't like talking about it. What's his name? Quentin Tarantino. They'll ask him about it and he'll lose it. Go figure. If you're that sensitive, why are you? I don't know. What's the deal with that? What is that? That's like an artistic thing? Because some people say that's just like signature, You're going to see a foot scene in a Tarantino movie. He denies being, anything, obsessed with that, but I don't think you can deny that. I don't know. Mike has an interesting cultural background. She's obviously Latina, but you know what the other half is? This common knowledge. She's Lebanese.
No idea.
Yeah, she's Lebanese. I don't know if this is true, but I heard back in the day that Farrah Fawcett was part Lebanese too on her mother's side or something like that, her father's side. So she got the name Farrah, but I don't know, it doesn't seem right. You know who Farrah Fawcett is? Anybody here?
Yeah, she's like, I don't know how old she is, but she's one of the original, like, Playboy.
Farrah Fawcett is dead.
Yeah, she died on that same weekend that Michael Jackson died, but
she was part of Charlie's Angels, and she was one of the original Playboy girls, and she was one of the original two-piece bikinis that was showing her nipple.
Yeah. 70s icons. You know, she defined how to wings. Where that, Steve? Everyone used to have feathered hair.
Farrah Fawcett was one of the originals of feathered hair. That is correct. Yes, thank you.
I've been posted of her in my room.
Oh,
her and the Chinese angel.
Well, the most famous scene where the poster is in a room is in John Travolta on Saturday Night Fever, where he's like, you can see he's got all these 70s icons in his room.
Yes.
He had Al Pacino. He had her. He had Sylvester Stallone.
And he had Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
The classic one.
She was wearing that two-piece bikini where her nipples were sticking out. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, how that was not going to be a success is you know, that's a no-brainer. How many millions of posters do they sell?
Lots. Lots.
I remember during those years I went to a religious Jewish school, and one of the kids came with a T-shirt with Farrah on the whole nipple thing, and they sent them home. They sent them home. Yeah. I keep forgetting, Steve, if I'm like 2 years older than you or younger than you, and I know that we're very close in the age.
I'm 66.
Ooh, you're 66.
I was born in 1960.
Wow, I thought that, you know, you're a few
How old are you?
No, I don't get you. I'm 60 even.
Okay, fine. Yes, I'm 66, yes.
You're a late end boomer, and I'm in the
yes, I'm a baby boomer, yes.
Yeah. That generation. I wish I was a boomer. I have boomer envy. No, it just seemed like, you know, well, you know, we're not too far apart anyway. We kind of have the same memories of stuff.
It's not a problem. It's all good.
Yeah. So, you guys getting any of that air from Canada? My brother is in Chicago, and he's telling me that they're getting this burnt air smell from Canada or something. You guys know anything about that?
Yeah, there's a huge brush fire in Canada. That's they talked about it on the show this morning. That's taking up the northeast part of America as well as the as far as Ohio. Yes.
Yeah, well, you never know, you know, all this crap that we put up with. We had Corona, now we've got these fires. And, you know, it reminds me of that Leonard Cohen song, you know which one I'm talking about? You know that song, Who by Fire? Anybody? No Leonard Cohen fans in the room?
Yeah, I know Leonard Cohen, but I don't know that song.
Oh, it's a great song. He took it from one of the most important prayers in Judaism. Who by fire, who by water, who by this and that. I forgot how it's in English, but it's a great song. Look it up and play it. It's just cool. So, let's see, Steve, if you were 9 years old when there was a moon landing. Do you remember that?
I have of something famous, watching it live.
Oh, no.
Watching it live was Richard Nixon resigning in 1974 because my parents specifically said, Steve, come to the TV. You're going to want to watch this because you'll never forget it.
Is that right?
So I may have seen the lunar landing, but I don't remember it. But I distinctly remember Richard Nixon resigning because my parents told me to come to the TV because I would never forget it.
I remember
Live.
Yeah, I do remember that also.
Was that live, Steve?
Yeah.
Yes, Richard Nixon resigned on TV live. Yes.
Yeah. I remember my father told me the same thing. He said, sit down, shut up, and this is history. Take it all in. You're going to want to tell somebody about this. And,
was it live on Sunday.
At least Nixon has the fucking sack to do the right thing, unlike some other presidents.
Well, that was that. Back then, you got caught. You just did the right thing. I mean, it was expected of you. We had something similar like that in Israel where he didn't even do the wrong thing. His wife did the wrong thing, and he said, I can't be a leader anymore, and he just stepped down. Then the rest was history. But that was back in the mid-70s. So, I don't know, today with these guys back then. They're not alive to talk about it, of course, but, it was different.
His resignation should tell you that he had respect for the office. Okay, unlike Donald Trump, he has no fucking respect at all.
Well, yeah. He was an idealist too. He really believed in the whole point about the Cold War and everything. He was an idealist, and I think the last idealistic president in America may have been Reagan. Maybe. Am I wrong about that?
Or Obama.
Huh?
Probably the basic premise of Obama's entire campaign was open change. Okay, if that's not idealism, I don't.
Yeah, he's an idealist. I'm not going to take that away. I've been away from the States forever, but I just remember the whole evil empire and all that stuff. It seemed like he took himself seriously to the Contras. Somebody tell me what the Contras was about. I have vague memories of it. I expect maybe, I don't know if he wants to, but Steve could probably give me a
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, we were on the side of Los Sandinistas, right? We were the side of those selling the drugs or something. I don't remember any of that.
I'm not sure. This is before my time. I'm 80s.
You were born in the 80s? You were born in the 80s, huh?
Yeah, 85.
Oh, so what's your, first memory? What year? 89 or something like that? 90?
70 is my first memory.
I remember, I'm talking TV memories. I think it was the lunar landing because I just remember a ruckus in the house and a lot of guests and everybody's eyes glued to the TV, and it was a lunar landing because that was in 69 when I ran all that. I wasn't, very clear-minded to know what was going on. I remember Nixon's speeches in 71. I think I remember the end of the Vietnam War.
There wasn't a lot of big end things in the news until I turned 16 and September 11th happened. I still remember that very vividly.
in the news. Not like join the military. Or like,
Steve, I'll bother you with only one question, and I'll let you go. Can we talk for a minute about 70s television shows? Did you have a favorite?
You can talk about anything you want.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. So, for one almost boomer to a boomer, I'm sure you had your share of television watching when you were a kid, right?
Yes, sir.
And back then we did it with the family, like in the evening. We had prime time, right? We had 3 networks.
Yes, sir. CBS, ABC, NBC.
Was there any kind of shows or any night of watching television that spoke to you that you're like, oh, that's my favorite show. I like this better than the other one or whatever?
No, sir.
You didn't like TV?
I love TV.
But they were all good then. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I love that. Well, my favorite show, I loved All the Family.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I would laugh all week long.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, everything there. His acting and the script writing and what was it, the malapropisms, you know what I'm talking about? The way he screwed up words. He'd say things like, it's not German to the conversation, or he'd say, oh, this is a good one. Let's circumcise our watches.
You're talking about Archie Bunker.
Yes, Archie, and as half-witted as he was, his wife may have been more half-witted than him, or more or less witty, whatever, than him, but she was the good-hearted, slow person, and he was who he was. I used to love that show. Yeah, I had that, I was really shocked to find out what happened to Rob Reiner. Is it Rob Reiner? I keep getting that mixed up. Rob Reiner's the son, right?
Rob Reiner was Michael Stivic, a.k.a. Meathead.
Yeah. I wonder, because it was nuanced and it was the 70s, if they were just like one step away from him being Jewish. Because I think if he was Jewish on the show, it would have been just too much. It wouldn't have been. So they made him like, from Eastern European, descent and liberal views and studying sociology. And he's got that look. And I don't know. That was back in the day where Norman Lear, I wrote half the television shows. He had a string of them. I think he was the biggest guy in television back then. He had, what shows did he have? He had, and those shows had spin-offs. You know what spin-offs I'm talking about? You had All the Family, and then, I'm not boring people, am I?
You had the Jeffersons. You had Maude. You had, and the most famous one was
Good Times.
Good Times. Thank you. Good Times. Yes.
Yeah, that was like a granddaughter show. I mean, that was like a show from a show, And that was interesting. Then there was some other shows like Mary Tyler Moore. That was a good show. They all had like this, the politics of the day in their show. Mary Tyler Moore was all about the feminism and the woman moving up and being independent and not being married and all that. Back then, everything was like a shocker,
The shows I remember as a kid were Star Trek: The Next Generation, Saturday Morning Cartoons. Let's see what else. Yeah, what's another one? I guess some other ones. Reading Rainbow.
Yeah. You break it up. I don't hear you.
Yeah, my bad. I got an orange bar over here, so.
Yeah. But they were all family shows. Every show had a family, and I think they stopped doing that around the mid-70s. They got into other shows. I think that the breakthrough show with that was Three's Company. And that was a pretty revolutionary show for the day. One second, some guy wants to get up here. Machiavelli, are you here? No. Just noticed I gotta plug my phone in. Yeah. You got that airtime. So I'm just gonna keep on yapping. So anybody wanna say something about the elections coming up? Or is that like we don't want to talk about? Hey, Alfonso, are you still driving? Are you doing that Uber work?
No, I haven't been doing that for a couple of months. First, we had a fuel crisis.
Ouch.
And, yeah. Well, we have a fuel crisis, and then we had the riots and blockades, and also fuel.
You live in Bolivia, right?
Yeah.
They have the most beautiful women in that area. Bolivia, Venezuela, Ecuador. Really putting it in water.
Well, it depends on where you look, I suppose.
Yeah. You know, we used to say, like in Chicago, I don't know if this is true everywhere, but the Mexican woman, okay, they used to say that Mexican women were well down on top, and Puerto Rican women had it in the back, you know, they're nice round, firm. And the perfect woman was like the integration of both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up, especially since you brought up, I think, Mary Tyler Moore. Yes.
Okay.
So this is from, and by the way, I see we have a new person, Marcus. Just hang on for a couple of minutes and we'll get to you. This is from Mary Tyler Moore, the very first show, the very first episode, when Mary goes to apply for a job. Check it out.
Right this way. It's been filled.
Do you have any idea when Mr. Grant will be back?
Hi, Mr. Grant.
You're back.
Look, Miss, I'm just about to have to bring my wooden mic to the company. What one?
Oh, no, thank you.
I said I wouldn't mind some company.
Well, all right. I'll have a brandy Alexander.
How about some coffee?
The job pays $10 less a week than a secretarial job.
That'd be fine.
If you can get by on 15 less a week, we'll make you producer.
No, I think all I can afford is associate producer. Oh, well, that's just wonderful. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Show number 1, Marriage Color More. She applies for the job.
That was a classic. That whole sequence.
Oh yeah.
That whole sequence. Before Ed Asner passed on, my brother was his attending physician.
No shit.
Yeah, in Los Angeles. And,
no shit.
Yeah, so he goes to he sees my brother's in, and goes his long last name. He goes, what kind of name is that? So my brother says, well, my parents are from Israel, and he goes, oh, you're a landsman. You know what a landsman is? My brother didn't.
No.
A landsman means you're one of us. You're like one of our own. So yeah, okay. Here's Ed Asner quick trivia question, and it's almost like the question itself lends itself to the answer because there's not a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
What miniseries, 2 of them, did he play in the 70s?
Roots.
There you go. Roots. Okay. Because I said miniseries, or because you know which part he played?
He played the captain of the slave ship.
There you go. Very good. Very good. Okay. And then he played in another one of my favorites. It's dear to my heart. He played in another miniseries. I don't know which one came first. One of them started the whole miniseries.
He wasn't in Rich Man, Poor Man, was he?
Oh, there he was.
Oh, he was. What did he play?
He played the father, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, got it. Rich Man, Poor Man. Sure.
Peter Strauss.
Peter Strauss and Ned Nolte. Nick Nolte and Peter Strauss.
Yeah, I also read the book. It's really.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, the guy who wrote that was a famous socialist guy. And if you look at that miniseries, there's like socialism behavioral innuendos. They're not anything evil.
Well, Roots was Alex Haley.
I laugh because there's a scene where, actually he wrote for Playboy, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a scene where his father gets on his case.
Okay. All right.
But in Rich Man, Poor Man, I'm forgetting now why I brought Rich Man, Poor Man.
Well, I'll give you half an answer. Lamar Burton was the original Kunta Kinte, who was the older Kunta Kinte.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, was he in another week of the Differs?
Well, actually, he was in a regular TV show for about 5 or 10 years. Daddy.
He played his dad.
Yep. Lamar Burton was the original, the young Kunta Kinte, was the older. The last name is Amos, his first name Ed.
Are you serious? No.
Wait, the first name was Amos.
John Amos,
yes. He played the older Kunta Kinte. Good times, yes.
He played father there. Oh, okay, I see what this is.
Yeah.
I got it. John Amos. You remember this guy?